Well as the public, please rise for the invocation. Remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. The invocation this evening will be offered by Pastor Ben Collier, Riverwood Church of Christ, guest of Council Member Holly Hueso.
Let's bow. Our Heavenly Father, we come to you with thanksgiving for many blessings and pray that you will continue to bless this great city of Nashville as we continue to grow and face new opportunities and challenges. Thank you for a wonderful place to live, work, and engage in a thriving community. Lord, I raise up our local leadership here, assembled here, and pray for wisdom, guidance, and discernment as this esteemed council deliberates and make decisions that impact the prosperity and the welfare of Nashville and so many others in the surrounding community and the visitors that grace our city every day. Please continue to guide, guard, and direct us all in the future as we enjoy the blessings of living in the wonderful city of Nashville and the United States of America. In all things, through Jesus Christ, I pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to ask everybody to remain standing for just a minute. I'd like us to take a moment of silence for one of our own, firefighter Jesse Reed, who was tragically left us this past week. And so with no further ado, we want to extend our condolences to his family, and we'll just take a moment of silence, please. You may be seated. Without objection, we'll suspend the calling of the roll and ask the clerk to record the names of those members present throughout the meeting. Is there a motion to adopt the minutes of the meeting of March? Without objection, the minutes of the meeting will stand approved as written. Madam Clerk, are there any messages from the mayor? Be nice if I'd turn
from the mayor.
Now you're on.
There are no messages from the mayor.
Thank you. Okay, we are going to move into the proposed amendments to our rules of procedure for the council. And we're going to handle this like we do the consent agenda. So I'm going to read the rules that we're going to change. I'm going to ask for any of them to be pulled off the list. Whatever we don't pull off the list, we will then move forward and vote on in a batch. Okay? So the rules that we have that are up for change are rule number 2, President Pro Tem. Rule number 7, committee meetings and rules. Number 8, introduction of legislation. Number 9, introduction of zoning legislation by council members at large. Number 11, filing deadlines and emergency items. Number 13, agenda preparation and mailing. Number 15, committee referrals, amendments to legislation. Number 16, certification by the Director of Finance on funds availability requirement. Number 19, contractual agreement requirements, street and alley closure requirements. Number 23, deferrals, excessive and indefinite deferrals. 24, automatic deferral by committee action. 28, appropriation of funds. 33, motion to table and motion for previous question. Number 38, roll call votes. 41, confirmations, questionnaires, and charter amendments. 43, the election of directors to the IDB and the Health and Education Facilities Board. Number 48, restrictions on access to chamber and committee rooms and cell phone use during sessions. 52 would be the last one, and that would be suspension of the rules. Any of those need to be pulled from the list. Mr. Sledge, hang on. Okay.
I'd ask to pull the rule change to Rule 24, please.
Are there any others? Okay, I'm going to now turn the floor over to Mr. Jameson, and he is going to share with us the specifics briefly of each rule, except 24.
With respect to Rule 2, the change is simply changing the name of a concurrent committee, Traffic and Parking and Transportation, a committee title correction. The next substantive change to Rule 7 Currently, a deferral resulting from a lack of a department report will not be considered a Rule 24 deferral. In other words, those won't be limited to one time as Rule 24 deferrals are. In other words, if a department does not provide you a report upon request, that can be a recurring basis for deferral. With respect to number 8, if a bill affects only one district and the sponsor is not that district council member, he can request deferral or she can request deferral upon request. Currently, it's automatic. This would make it upon the request of that district council member. Number 9, when an at-large member introduces a zoning bill and the district council member has not yet sponsored it, the at-large can request the district council member to sponsor it. This rule change would simply provide that the council member at large makes that request through the council office to avoid Open Meetings Act concerns. With respect to number 11, the requests for legislation through the council office should be submitted in writing. That is simply to maintain consistency with the council handbook. With request to number 13, 3 of the rules requests deal with legislation that comes before the clerk's office that requires them to review all the legislation and then making decisions before they are placed on the agenda. So, for example, in this rule number 13, the Metro Clerk's Office has never listed the votes of all other boards and commissions beyond planning, traffic, and the ECD. So that last line of the second to last paragraph is stricken. Rule number 15 simply is relocating a paragraph so that the paragraphs are arranged by topic order. Rule number 16 is a request from the Finance Department. Again, this would require, in most instances, the clerk to read every single bill that is filed before deciding whether or not to place it on the agenda, in this particular case, if it has any financial implications. As changed, the rule would allow the bill to be placed on the agenda, but it would then allow the Finance Department, upon their request, 20 additional days to review it to determine the availability of funds if necessary. Under number 19, currently bills that have attachments requiring signatures, contracts, for example, those are not to be placed on the agenda by the clerk's office, again, if there are signatures missing. Again, we cannot impose that upon the clerk's office to review each and every syllable of new legislation to determine their compliance. So this rule change allows those bills to be placed on the agenda. They simply aren't to be considered by council until the signatures are provided. Skipping to Rule 23, it simply clarifies that any deferral period that lasts over 90 days, not just an indefinite, but any deferral period that lasts over 90 days, triggers that automatic bump required for a deferral after 90 days. Number 24, committees can indefinitely defer legislation, and that is binding on this floor. The rule change would require that committee's indefinite deferral to be by 2/3 of the voting members of that committee. Rule number 28, currently no legislation that spends or borrows funds should be placed on the agenda by the Metro Clerk. Again, to spare the Metro Clerk of having to read each of the pieces of legislation and making those determinations, the rule change would allow those items to be placed on the agenda, just not to be considered by the council until the projects and costs are listed as required. 29 simply separates that one paragraph into 2 paragraphs by topic. Rule 33 provides that currently this rule addresses motions to table legislation, but the rule change would address instances where a tabling motion is addressed at a motion, a deferral motion, for example, simply a grammatical change for all intents and purposes. Rule 38 provides that roll calls currently can be required to determine the outcome of a voice vote on an ordinance. This would broaden it to any legislation, since the vote on a resolution could also be unclear. But it also provides that when a council member asks for a roll call following a voice vote, that the chair, the presiding chair, must then prompt the request, are there any seconds, rather than waiting on the person making that motion. You'll still need 3 seconds, but it is incumbent upon the chair to make the request of the person submitting the motion. With respect to Rule 38, currently any member of the council that's present in the chamber but doesn't cast a vote is recorded as abstaining. That would require the clerk to essentially divine the intentions of a council member, and so that provision is stricken. You'll simply be recorded as not having voted. Under 41, there is a provision for allowing collective votes. In other words, for example, if you had 3 positions open to fill, let's say you had 2 positions to fill and 3 candidates. You could cast your votes for 2 at a time. And as long as I'm sorry, let me strike that. Rule 41 adds the term unless otherwise specified, and that's because Rule 43 would allow for some instances where fewer than 21 votes can allow for an appointment, and I'll get to 43 next. Under Rule 43, what I was intending to say earlier, in those instances where you have 2 or more openings and more than those many candidates, this rule allows the council to cast 2 or more candidate votes. Let me give you a simple example just to bring this around. Let's say there is an office that has 2 openings and 3 candidates. You could cast on one vote, one round, your 2 votes for 2 separate of those 3 offices. You would then appoint whoever gets the majority vote, regardless of that number, and any second candidate that gets more than 21. Let me give you 2 numerical examples. Let's say the first vote, candidate A gets 35 votes, candidate B gets 25, and candidate C gets 20. You would pick A and B because they meet the requirements. A second example of that, candidate A gets 19 votes, candidate B gets 18, and so forth. You would pick 19 because he or she was the leader. You don't pick the second candidate because he didn't get 21. 2 more changes. Rule 48, this would allow the Director of Finance and/or his designee to be present during council meetings on the floor. This is colloquially referred to as the Zach Kelly rule. Rule 52 would allow suspending the rule by council members provided that they identify the rule they are suspending when they request suspension of the rules. And that is a summary of the proposed changes.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to consider all of these rules written except Rule 24? Is there a second? There's a second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Now we're going to move on to Rule 24, and I need to hear a motion to consider Rule 24. Seeing it properly moved and seconded, is there any discussion? Councilman Sledge.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I've been talking with several members of the Rules Committee, and first of all, I want to thank the Rules Committee for all the work they've done on this. This is, I think, all in all, an excellent change. The reason I pulled Rule 24's change off was because the change that indicates that indefinite deferral would require 2/3 of the voting members of any committee. Right now, I think as many of us would attest, probably even tonight, we're having difficulty getting even 2/3 of members in a committee, period. A lot of times we're having to make sure that we get quorums, and sometimes those quorums might hit that 2/3 number and might not. So the concern that I have is if there was a motion for indefinite deferral, the committee was not only in favor, but potentially unanimous in favor. Under our rules, we would indicate that unless it was a 2/3 majority, that they would not be able to indefinitely defer. And it seems to me that it even could potentially damage a sponsor who was trying to indefinitely defer it in committee. My concern overall is that it kind of, and this may be a philosophical difference among members, is I think it almost takes away the power that we put in a couple of years ago for our committees to say that there's the potential to indefinitely defer in committee. We made that rule change, I think, in our first set of rule changes as a body. So I would like to sustain that ability. If there's a desire to do a higher threshold, I think I understand that, and I'm not necessarily opposed to it, but I think as currently written, it might accidentally or unintentionally take away the power that we gave ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Glover.
Thank you, Madam President. So, Mr. Jamison, let me ask, I'd like to take this a step further. If by 2/3 vote in committee, it's deferred indefinitely, would the option still exist that we can contact the clerk's office and then ask it to come back on to the agenda at the next meeting? Correct. Or does it completely remove that option?
No, it's still the same option.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Thank you.
Councilman Mendez.
I was just going to comment briefly about the Rules Committee discussion. We talked about this at length, and there are definitely some of our colleagues, including Councilor Gilmore, who's not here this evening, and me, who would rather see the ability for a committee to do an indefinite deferral be removed from the rules entirely. And this language ended up reflecting a compromise of raising the threshold somewhat, but still leaving the power for the committee to do an indefinite deferral. So I would like to see the language in, but I mean, I'll acknowledge that most of the committee wanted to see some version of the indefinite deferral power stay in place.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Rosenberg.
Thank you, Madam President Pro Tem, fulfilling the duties of Vice Mayor. Mr. Jameson, well, my intention in suggesting this change was that it be 2/3 of the members who are voting on that motion. Is that what this does?
Yes, it refers to as the voting members. So just to use a silly mathematical example, if there was a committee composed of 9 members and 3 weren't there, but 6 voted, then that's the voting members, not 9, but the 6 are the voting members who are actually there and casting votes. That's what you measure the 2/3 of.
Thank you, Mr. Jameson. So this is not affected by only 2/3 of the members showing up, as long as 2/3 of those voting in the affirmative or against.
Correct. If 3 people show up and 2 vote, that's 2/3 of the voting members.
Thank you, Mr. Jameson. Thank you, Your Highness.
Assuming you have a quorum.
There's one in every crowd. Mr. Mendez, are you asking to be recognized again? Councilman O'Connell.
Thank you, Madam President. I might just ask if a member of the Rules Committee could speak to the reasoning behind this specific change based on the concerns that Councilman Sledge raised. Even with Councilman Rosenberg's clarification, I'd love to understand what the concerns of the Rules Committee were on this one. Thank you.
Councilman Shulman.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm not sure if I'm the right person to speak on this. I believe it's probably Councilman Mendez. I think he just tried to explain it. I think it's a compromise effort. If you remember when we first passed this rule back in many years ago, when we were first elected, there was a question about giving the committees more power. This was the one thing that we could come up with where the committees actually could, if there was a piece of legislation that they really did not think was appropriate, they could actually move to defer indefinitely over the sponsor and actually get it off the agenda. There's a process to get it back on. I know through discussions that there were people at that point that didn't like that, and then they continued to not like it, particularly those who sometimes it was used against. But I think the idea was that over the years, there was a feeling the committees didn't have much power. And so the idea was to actually put something like this in to give it some structure. The change, I think, goes with what Councilman Mendez talked about, and that is there were still people who didn't like it, but the idea was maybe it was too easy to just use it. So the idea was to up the number of people that would be required, the number of voting members to 2/3, so that it couldn't just be used whenever they wanted to, but it was it took a little bit more effort to actually move to defer indefinitely. And I hope that answered the question. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Haywood.
I'm just wondering if the explanation from Attorney Jameson clarified that it's not 2/3 of the entire committee, but actually 2/3 of those in attendance. And I'm wondering, Councilman, if that makes a difference.
Councilman Sledge.
Thank you, and thank you, Chair. I think it does. I mean, I still have some reservations. It takes away the most pressing reservation I had. I think I am concerned that it's going to force our committee chairs to do more math, so I have a real concern about that. But other than that, I think most of my concerns are quelled. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Seeing no one else in the queue, all in favor of the change to Rule 24? All opposed? Motion passes. Anybody else seeking to be recognized about the rules? Council Lady Haywood.
I just wanted to articulate to Councilman Sledge that he mentioned more math. That is really remedial math, okay? Yes.
Okay, I want to do a little commercial break here, if I might. I'd like everybody to recognize Police Chief Steve Anderson and Sergeant Raymond Jones. They're in attendance tonight with the Tennessee State University Collegiate Citizens Police Academy. Would y'all please stand up? Let's give them a big round of applause. Thank y'all for coming. Okay, we now are going to move to elections and confirmations. We're going to take the election for Deputy Pro Tem for a term ending August 31st, 2019. And I am going to call on Council Lady Haywood. She's going to suspend the rules. Sorry. Multitasking's not working.
At this time, you're not calling on the elections and confirmations.
No, we're going to do Deputy Pro Tem.
Okay,
first.
at this time, we will vote for the two candidates for Deputy Pro Tem.
We need a suspension of the rules.
Oh, yes, we do. We need a suspension of the rules. And the Rules Committee voted that we would suspend the rules to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any objection to a suspension of the rules? Councilman O'Connell.
Yeah, this is a point where I'm not objecting. I'm just curious why we need a suspension of the rules to do this election.
Mr. Jameson.
Rule 2 of the council rules anticipates the election of a deputy pro tem in the instances of a vacancy of the vice mayor. The vacancy is the death or resignation, the permanent absence. That has not occurred in this place. The rule provides a nice convenient touch for temporary absences of the vice mayor and permanent absences, but not for 6-month absences. So to accommodate Vice Mayor Wiener, we will have, with your permission, a deputy pro tem to serve for the next 6 months.
Great, thank you for that
August
explanation.
of 19.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Shulman.
Thank you, Madam President. I think Mr. Jameson got that last point. So assuming that we suspend the rules and we have an election, the deputy pro tem serves until when?
August of 19. The last rule, the last sentence of Rule 2 clarifies, if I can read it, the terms of the pro tem and any deputy pro tem shall expire on August 31st of the year following their election. So that would be August of 19.
August of 2019. Okay, thank you.
Are there any more questions? Okay, I'm going to open the floor for nominations. Council Lady Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to nominate Jacobia Dow for Deputy Pro Tem.
Thank you. Councilman O'Connell.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to nominate Council Lady Berkeley Allen.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations from the floor? Seeing none, we're going to move to a machine vote. And if you want to vote for Council Lady Dowell, press number 1 or yes. So you press the, yeah. You can put their names on there? Okay. Well, like I said, we're going to open the machines. Madam Clerk, please.
I didn't know we could do it here.
Mr. Jameson and I just learned something new. Has everybody voted? Okay, will you please close the machines and tally the vote? Hang on, I can't see the screen to, I don't have the screen. Ah, hello. Okay. You're on.
There are 18 votes in favor of Ms. Allen, 15 votes in favor of Ms. Dow.
Okay, our new Deputy Pro Tem is Council Lady Berkeley Allen. Congratulations. Okay, we're now going to move to boards and commissions appointments.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. We have the following appointments and reappointments. However, all of them have been deferred by the request of our new mayor. And they are the Action Commission with the appointment of Ms. Leslie Buggs for a term expiring March 6, 2019. The Community Corrections Advisory Board with the reappointment of Mr. Eric Evans for a term expiring January the 18th of 2020. Next, we have the Convention Center Authority, the reappointment of Mr. David McMurray for a term expiring January the 21st of 2022. Next, we have the Electric Power Board, the appointment of Mr. Clint Gray for a term expiring July the 1st of 2019. Mr. Gray will fill the unexpired term of Mr. Sam Howard. Next, we have the Gas Mechanical Examiners Appeals Board with the reappointment of Mr. Michael Potter for a term expiring January the 20th of 2022. Next, Nashville Education, Community, and Arts Television with the reappointment of Ms. Carmen Gabriel for a term expiring February the 5th of 2021. And finally, we have the Sports Authority, the reappointment of Mr. Emmett Wynn for a term expiring February the 17th of 2024. And again, I rearticulate, all of the appointees have been deferred by the mayor until the next council meeting. However, the Metropolitan Development and Housing Authority, we have one appointment, and that's the reappointment of Mr. Ralph Mosley for a term expiring November the 5th of 2022. And this is approved pursuant to Section 11.101.1 of the Metropolitan Charter.
Thank you, Council Lady. I appreciate it. So you have heard the motion for deferral of all of the aforementioned boards and commission appointments for one meeting. Is there a second? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. We will now move to the reappointment of Mr. Ralph Mosley. You've heard the committee report. Do I hear a motion for the reappointment of Mr. Ralph Mosley for a term expiring November 5th, 2022 to the Metropolitan Development and Housing Agency? Did I hear a second? Seeing it properly moved and seconded, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Please stand as I call your name, Mr. Ralph Mosley. Okay, seeing that Mr. Mosley is not here, we will move on. We're now at bills on public hearing. So for the public, we're happy to hear from you, and we're happy to hear from you about each bill. We're going to offer you 4 minutes each to speak if you desire, and we're going to ask that you begin by sharing your name and address. We do ask that you not be repetitive of what others have said, and would request that you be respectful of all parties. So the first item is Resolution Number 2018-1081. Sponsor is Councilmember Roten. Exempts Freebird's World Burrito located at 3800 Hillsborough Pike from the minimum distance requirements for obtaining a beer permit. Councilman Roten.
I move to open the public hearing, please.
Would everyone in favor please raise their hand? Anyone in opposition? Seeing no one in opposition, does anyone in favor wish to speak? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilman Roden.
Move approval.
All in favor? Opposed? Oh, sorry, committee reports would be public safety. Can somebody grab Council Lady Roberts?
I was trying to avoid her not being here, but
Sorry. Let me come back to it. We're going to move to Resolution 2018-1082. Councilman Davis exempts Pearl Diver located at 1008 Gallatin Avenue from the minimum distance requirements for obtaining a beer permit. Councilman Davis.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I need to suspend the rules.
Let's do the public hearing first, and then you can suspend the rules. That'll be fine.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to open the public hearing, please.
Thank you. Would everyone in favor please raise your hand? Anyone in opposition? Seeing none on either side, I declare the public hearing closed.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to close the public hearing and suspend the rules.
Is there an objection to a suspension of the rules? Seeing none, Councilman.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to do committee reports, please.
Council Lady Roberts.
Thank you, Ms. Vice Mayor. Public safety deferred by rule because the sponsor wasn't there.
Councilman Davis.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to move for approval, please. Or suspend the rules. Yeah, I got suspending.
There was no objection to suspending the rules, right? Yeah, there was no objection. Okay. So there's a motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. We're going to go back to 1081. Council Lady Roberts, we need a committee report, please.
Thank you, Ms. Vice Mayor. Public safety voted 4 in favor, 0 against.
Thank you. Councilman Roten.
move approval.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now we're going to move to items on the consent agenda. The following resolutions are on the consent agenda, and we've got hang on a minute. Okay. RS 2018-1048, RS 2018-1049, RS 2018-1075, RS 2018-1077, RS 2018-1083 through 1089, RS 2018-1090 through 1096, RS 2018-1098 through 1110, RS 2018-1112 through 1120. Are any of those items needing to be pulled from the consent agenda? Councilman Cooper.
It's left over.
Oh, sorry.
Right.
Councilman Mendez, were you asking to speak? Okay, hang on. Okay.
Did you say that 1077 was on the consent?
That is a mistake.
Okay.
That is a mistake.
Thank you.
And 1075 is also a mistake. Councilman Shulman.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm just checking to make sure 1105 and 1106 are off the consent. I wasn't fast enough to catch it.
Hang on, they're on the list. Let me look.
Not on consent is what I'm looking for.
They are not on consent?
Yeah.
Hang on. He's saying 1105 and 1106 are not on consent.
All right, we'll pull them.
Okay. So do I hear a motion to accept all items on the consent agenda? Sorry about, hang on. Councilman Roden.
My apologies. 67 and 68 are on the consent agenda. They need to be pulled off.
Okay, hold on, guys. 1067.
Yeah, they're already off. They're in red. They're already pulled.
I didn't read them. Yeah, they're already pulled. Yeah, they're already pulled.
113.
Yeah, they're off. Which one? Okay. I did it. I marked it.
Okay.
I marked it. Okay, bear with me while I read the book. Resolution 2018-1048 approves a grant from Boulevard Bolt to the Metro Social Services Commission to benefit the House Nashville program to aid homelessness. RS 2018-1049 approves a grant from the Dorothy, Kate, and Thomas Frist Foundation to the Metro Social Services Commission in support of the House Nashville Fund. Resolution 2018-1068, oh, never mind, that one's not on, right? Sorry about that. Resolution 2018-1083 approves a memorandum of understanding between the Metro Development and Housing Agency and the Mayor's Office with respect to the assignment of AmeriCorps volunteers in service to America, supporting the Nashville Promise Zone. Resolution 2018-1084 approves a grant from the Ann Casey Foundation to the Mayor's Office of Economic and Community Development to provide a community engagement plan and strategy for North Nashville's equitable economic development. Resolution 2018-1085 authorizes a short-term extension to the liquidity facility agreement related to Metro Government's water and sewer commercial paper program. RS 2018-1086 authorizes the Metro Department of Law to compromise and settle the property damage claim of Paul Guntarek as successor administrator CTA of the estate of William C. Link against Metro Government in the amount of $300,000. RS 2018-1087 authorizes the Metro Department of Law to compromise and settle the claim of Sherry Bishop against Metro Government in the amount of $14,492.71. RS 2018-1088 declares surplus and authorizes the grant of property to certain nonprofit organizations and authorizes grants to not exceed $10,760,423.39 from the Barnes Fund for Affordable Housing. RS 2018-1089 approves an amendment to a grant between Rebuilding Together Nashville and Metro for the rehabilitation of affordable housing units. RS 2018-1090 authorizes the Director of Public Property to exercise option agreements for the purchase of various flood-prone properties for Metro Water Services. RS 2018-1091 approves and authorizes the Mayor to submit amendments and technical corrections to the action plan for disaster recovery to complete recovery efforts resulting from the May 2010 floods. RS 2018-1092 approves a grant from the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency to the Metro Nashville Water and Sewerage Services Department for flood mitigation. RS 2018-1093 approves an application for a hazard mitigation grant from the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency to the Department of Water and Sewer Services for flood mitigation. RS 2018-1094 authorizes the Department of Water and Sewer Services to enter into a utility relocation contract Tennessee Department of Transportation at Nolensville Pike from Mill Creek to near SR 254. Resolution 2018-1095 authorizes the Department of Water and Sewerage Services to enter into utility easement contract with the Tennessee Department of Transportation at Nolensville Pike from Mill Creek near State Route 254. Resolution 2018-1096 approves 3 amendments between Metro and the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation concerning maintenance of closed solid waste disposal facilities. RS 2018-1098 approves an intergovernmental agreement between the Tennessee Department of Transportation and the Metro Department of Public Works for traffic signals and construction at the interchange at I-24 and Hickory Hollow Parkway. RS 2018-1099 approves an intergovernmental agreement between the Tennessee Department of Transportation and the Department of Public Works for traffic signal improvements and construction at the I-24 interchange at Old Hickory Boulevard. RS 2018-1100 authorizes the Department of Water and Sewage Services to enter into a utility relocation contract with the Tennessee Department of Transportation at Nolensville Pike from Mill Creek to State Route 254. RS 2018-1101 approves an assistance to firefighters grant from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security to the Nashville Fire Department to provide tactical rescue, hazmat monitoring equipment, and personal protective equipment for the Special Operations Division. RS 2018-1102 accepts a donation from Music City, Inc. to Metro Government for the use and benefit of the Nashville Fire Department. RS 2018-1103 approves a grant from ExxonMobil Refining and Supply to the Metro Nashville Fire Department to provide assistance in purchasing or upgrading emergency response equipment. RS 2018-1104 approves a grant from the Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security to the Nashville Police Department to undertake alcohol countermeasures highway safety projects to decrease the number of driving under influence crashes. RS 2018-1105 approves a grant to provide transportation services to eligible seniors and handicapped residents from the Greater Nashville Regional Council to the Metro Social Services Commission. RS 2018-1106 approves a nutrition services grant from the Greater Nashville Regional Council to the Metro Social Services Commission to provide meals that meet RDA nutritional guidelines at congregate meal sites and meal delivery services to eligible seniors. RS 2018-1107 approves a contract between the Metro Board of Health and Belmont University to provide clinical experience opportunities for its undergraduate and graduate nursing program students. RS 2018-1108 amends the contract between the Department of Public Works and the Nashville Downtown Partnership to add the Metro Howard Complex parking garage to the public parking facilities. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to read that. Hang on. It wasn't marked. It wasn't marked. RS 2018-1109 sets a public hearing for the creation of the Donaldson Transit-Oriented Redevelopment Plan. RS 2018-1110 amends the scope rendered by the report and recommendations of the special committee. RS 2018-1112 adds a representative of St. Thomas Health to the Strategic Planning Committee regarding Nashville General Hospital operations. RS 2018-1114 recognizes Nashville Predators General Manager David Poyle upon becoming the winningest general manager in National Hockey League history. RS 2018-1115 honors the life and accomplishments of Dr. Eugene Arthur Tissell. RS 2018-1116 honors the life of Mr. John J. West for his many years of service and contributions to the city of Nashville. RS 2018-1117 recognizes the renowned Roland White, a pioneer and legendary bluegrass mandolin player. RS 2018-1118 celebrates and recognizes April 14th to 21st, 2018 as Nashville Content Week in Nashville. RS 2018-1119 recognizes and honors the Nashville 16 students who desegregated Metro Nashville Public Schools. I think that brings us to the conclusion of the consent agenda. I've got a proposed amendment on 1120. Is that right?
The amendment.
They struck the amendment?
Okay. No, for the amendment. So it should be.
Okay, so 1120 is apparently on consent. RS 2018-1120 expresses the support of the Metro Council for Metro employees to pursue and maintain public union representation, and further urging the United States Supreme Court to uphold the integrity of public unions in deciding the matter of Janus versus AFSCME. Do I hear a motion to accept all items on the consent agenda as a second? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Now we are going to move to resolutions that are not on the consent agenda, and we will start with Resolution 2018. Oh, wait, I didn't get committee reports a minute ago, sorry. Bear with me here. Okay, committee reports. Councilman Mendez.
For Resolution 1088 and 1089, the Ad Hoc Affordable Committee voted in favor of both, 5 in favor, 0 against.
Thank you. Council Lady Bircher.
Thank you, Madam President. Budget and Finance recommended approval, 11 for, 0 against, for resolutions RS 2018-1083 through RS 2018-1096. We also recommended approval, 11 for, 0 against, for resolutions RS 2018-1101 through RS 2018-1104. Resolutions RS 2018-1105 And Resolution 2018-1106, Budget and Finance recommended approval. 10-4, 1 not voting on each of those resolutions. And for RS 2018-1108, Budget and Finance recommended approval. 11-4, 0 against. For RS 2018-1110, Budget and Finance recommended approval. 11-4, 0 against. And for RS 2018-1112, Budget and Finance recommended approval. 11-4, 0 against.
Thank you. Councilman Hastings.
Thank you, Madam President. For the Health, Hospitals, and Social Services Committee, for Resolution RS 2018-1048, four voted for, 0 against. For Resolutions 2018-1049, 4 0 against. For Resolutions RS 2018-1105, 4 0 against. For Resolutions RS 2018-1106, 4 0 against. For Resolutions 2018-1107, 4 0 against. For RS 2018-1112, 4 0 against. Thank you.
Councilman Bednay.
Yeah, thank you. The following resolutions were recommended for approval, 11-4-0 against. RS 2018-1088, 1090, 1094, 1095, 1097. Actually, 1097 was recommended for withdrawn. Oh, sorry, that was on the consent agenda. I apologize.
That's okay.
I was reading 1098 was recommended for approval, 1099, and 1100. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Thank you. Council Lady Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Public Safety and Beer and Regulated Beverages voted 4 in favor, 0 against for Resolution 1101, 1102, 1103, and 1104.
Thank you. Councilman Elrod.
Thank you, Your Eminence. Resolutions 1090, 1092, 93, 94, 95, 96, 98, 99, and 1100 were recommended for approval. 7 in favor, 0 against.
Thank you. And Councilman Hager.
Resolution 1108, Resolution 1113, Resolution 1120, and I guess there was another, we got 2 of them, 1113 also, but all of them passed 5-4-0 against.
Thank you. Council Lady Haywood.
Thank you. The Rules, Confirmation, and Public Elections reviewed resolutions 1114, 1115, 1116, 1117, 1118, 1119, and 1120. With each one of them, we voted 5 in favor of and 0 against. And with that, all committee reports are in, and I would like to move to approve all the resolutions on the consent agenda.
Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Now we're going to move to items that are not on the consent agenda. RS 2018-1067 approves a grant from the Conservancy for the Parthenon and Centennial Park to the Metro Parks and Recreation Department to provide funding for 1 employee's salary. Council Lady Vercher.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for withdrawal.
Is there a second? All in favor? Opposed? Motion to withdraw is approved. I didn't think so. Yeah, okay. RS 2018-1068, approved by Budget and Finance Committee but referred to Parks, Library, and Recreation, approves a grants package from the Friends of Warner Parks to the Metro Board of Parks and Recreation to provide additional labor for summer maintenance. Council Lady Henderson.
Thank you, Ms. Weiner. I'm going to defer, apologize, just blanked on what we're calling you. I would defer, please, to Councilman Roten, who was in committee and part of this discussion. Thank you. He is also Bill. May I?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Councilman Roten.
Thank you, Madam President. The committee voted to defer for one meeting, 7 in favor, 0 against.
Thank you. There's been a motion to defer. Is there a second? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Resolution 2018-1075 confirms the reappointment of David McMurray to serve on the Board of Directors of the Convention Center Authority. Council Lady Haywood.
Yes, that will be deferred until the next meeting by recommendation of the mayor, and we voted 5-4 and 0 against to defer it.
Thank you. There's a motion to defer one meeting. Properly seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. RS 2018-1077 confirms the reappointment of Emmett Wynn to the Board of Directors of the Sports Authority. Council Lady Haywood.
Again, we voted 5-4 and 0 against to defer it until the next meeting by recommendation of the new mayor.
Thank you, Council Lady. There's a motion to defer one meeting and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. RS 2018-1097 approves a grant from the Tennessee Historical Commission to the Metro Historical Commission to send 5 representatives to the National Alliance of Preservation Commission Forum. Council Lady Vercher.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for withdrawal.
Seeing it properly moved and seconded, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Resolution 2018-1105 approves a grant to provide transportation services to eligible seniors and handicapped residents from the Greater Nashville Regional Council to the Metro Social Services Commission. Council Lady Vercher.
Thank you, Madam President. You sped up on me. Budget and Finance recommended approval, 10-4, 0 against, with 1 member not voting.
Thank you. Councilman Hastings.
Health, Hospitals, and Social Services voted for approval, 4-4, 0 against.
Council Lady Vercher.
And I move for approval.
It's been properly moved and seconded. All in favor? Oh, wait, sorry. Council Lady Allen.
That was left over from the previous one.
Councilman Schulman.
Councilman Schulman.
Thank you, Madam President. I need to recuse myself from this one and the next one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Having been properly moved and seconded, seeing no more discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. RS 2018-1106 approves a nutrition services grant from the Greater Nashville Regional Council to the Metro Social Services Commission to provide meals that meet RDA nutritional guidelines at congregate meal sites and meal delivery services to eligible seniors. Council Lady Vercher.
Thank you, Madam President. Budget and Finance recommended approval, 10-4, 1 not voting.
Thank you. And Councilman Hastings.
Thank you, Madam President. Health, Hospitals, and Social Services voted 4-4 and 0 against.
Council Lady Vercher.
I move for approval.
Properly moved and seconded. No discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. RS 2018-1111 authorizes the employment of Birch, Porter, and Johnson as special counsel to the Metro Council and further authorizes compensation for services rendered. Council Lady Allen.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Council Lady Vercher.
Thank you, Madam President. Budget and Finance recommended approval, 6-4, 5 against.
Thank you, Council Lady Allen.
Move approval.
Seeing no discussion, properly moved and seconded. Well, now we do have a, all right. Councilman Glover.
Thank you, Madam President. You know, we had a lot of conversation about this yesterday, and I know we're going to really debate how this works. You know, I think we need to be very aware of the fact we're authorizing compensation for services rendered when obviously I believe, as does most of the city, feel like this has already been accomplished. And so therefore, I will not be supporting this tonight. I really hoped we would have had killed this. But anyway, that being said, I hope we're very cautious on the message we're sending on spending money that we don't need to be spending. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Schulman. Oh, hang on, I hit the wrong button. I'm sorry. There you go.
Thank you, Madam President. I know there was a lot of discussion yesterday in budget, and I know there was a lot of work that the special committee put in, and I know that they've got limitations on the spending, and I appreciate that. I guess this may be a question to the chair of the committee, Councilor Lady Allen, and the question is, I think the last resolution particularly narrowed the scope of what this committee is looking for, but is there any, there were questions just about the length of how long this is going to last, and I know that's difficult to answer, but I guess the question would be, do we have any idea of how fast this thing can move and how long it may last?
Councilor Lady Allen.
Thank you for that question, Mr. Schulman. If I might refer to the previous resolution, in that resolution, we specifically, I would say, limited the scope from our previous charge had been to do two things. One was to determine if money had been wrongly spent. That has been determined, so that we can check that one off the list, as council members have referred to. The second was to present a report and make recommendations for future actions to the council. And we have specifically, with this previous resolution, specified that those actions would be simply to determine if there are any changes in policies and procedures that need to be made that can prevent a future occurrence of this type of mishandling of funds. So our scope is very narrow. And in this resolution, where we discuss whether we should hire an outside counsel, we have currently specifically limited the amount of time that that outside counsel could spend to 15 hours because we do want to be mindful of not spending the taxpayers' monies unwisely. And so what we've limited the scope to is to allow the auditor to look through records and to determine if there's anything else we can find out that will help us determine any changes that need to be made to policies and procedures. We currently do not have a specific end date on that, but we will be meeting again once Mr. Swan has begun some of his investigation, and we can come back to you with a more specific answer to that question. But we are well aware of the need to limit the time spent on this, and we appreciate that question.
And thank you for that. And one last question, Madam President, probably back to the chair, back to Councilor Lady Allen. And that was, there was a lot of discussion yesterday in budget about the transparency, what they're trying to do. And I think I've heard from people who say they understand what's happened, but they'd like some transparency in terms of trying to get to some resolution or into this. So I would just ask the chair if she wouldn't mind responding to that question as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll respond. I may call upon a fellow committee member who's a lawyer who can add to this if we need to. If the audit committee does this under its own authorization, that's a different standard for how the determinations would be made available to the public. This is my understanding. I will let the two lawyers who are sitting in on this committee add to that. If it is done under the auspices of the committee, everything we do is public record, and it is our opinion that people want transparency and that this would allow for that. And I would defer to Mr. Mendez.
Councilman Mendez.
Thank you. Council Lady Allen has that accurate. The audit committee under state law is not subject to public records requests for its work papers. And so anything that comes through our committee here in the council would be subject to public records requests. And so there's a potential difference in the level of information that's available to the public after the work is done.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Hager.
I'd like to ask the committee chair, the audit, is that our auditors that we're using?
Council Lady.
Yes, that is our auditor.
All right. And you're authorizing 15 hours for this attorney from Memphis to look into this, correct?
We are allowing that to be available if our auditor determines that he needs legal counsel.
Okay. And what would be the role of the attorneys from Memphis in this investigation?
It would be to provide, and again, I may draw upon Mr. Mendez to help me here. The auditor will be specifically looking at documents and whether things were done according to plan. If he needs help from legal counsel to determine things regarding policies that are not necessary, that are more interpretive, then that would be where he would bring them in.
Don't we have attorneys here in our legal department that can determine our policies?
Are you coming back to me?
Yes, you're on.
We do have attorneys who can determine legal policy. When we began this process, our objective was to look for legal counsel that was totally independent. It's certainly, that's why this is before this body to debate if that independence is still as necessary. The committee, after robust discussion, decided that it was.
Well, my position is we have plenty of attorneys that are on the payroll already in various departments. I don't see any need, now that there's been a resignation, that's why we'd need any independent law firm to come in here and check on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Hager. Councilman Elrod.
Thank you, Madam President. The resolution, Mr. Jamieson, if you could correct me, it authorizes specifically 15 hours, but it allows for more if the special committee allows it. Is that correct?
Correct.
So, so we're basically giving the committee a blank check for however many they want, 15 plus. Is that a fair statement?
A blank check up to 15 hours, and then if additional time is necessary, approval would be required.
But not by the council, just by the committee?
By the committee.
Okay. I initially thought it was just up to 15 hours, but it's essentially an unspecified amount because we're allowing at least 15, or up to 15, and then the committee can continue going on forward. So I have similar concerns that that many have expressed, and plus the uncertainty about an end date, and that we are giving the committee. And while this is absolutely not a comment on the chair or any of the committee members, but something like this, I would want, or I would prefer, rather, I guess, an end date certain or an amount certain as far as how much, how long the investigation or looking into this is going to go and how much is going to be spent. Thank you.
Councilman Mendez.
Mr. Jamieson, on this blank check concept, am I right that any bills for the outside counsel would still have to get approved?
Correct, on a monthly basis.
So even if the committee went crazy and approved a gazillion hours, the law firm couldn't actually get paid unless an invoice was approved by the full council?
Full council, correct.
All right. You know, I'm sure we don't want to rehash the hour and a half that the committee spent here 2 weeks ago today, but fundamentally, the argument that prevailed at the committee meeting was that after the plea bargain, which is inherently a compromise, we're not able to tell the citizens of Davidson County what the mechanism of theft of services was, and we're not able to tell the citizens of Davidson County what, if anything, is going to be done to keep the mechanism for the theft of services that has been admitted and acknowledged from happening again. And we've also got the internal auditor saying that in order to do performance review versus policies, he would likely use lawyers for that. So I won't belabor the whole argument, but we had this conversation at the committee level about needing to not sweep it under the rug when we're not able to say exactly what happened other than reading media reports. So I would encourage us to go forward with this. It's limited. It keeps the potential for spending in place. We've limited it to 15 hours. The lawyers have to come back here to get bills approved. They're not going to be able to go rogue and run up a big bill without approval from the council. Finally, on the time issue, the committee's going to act when the internal audit department gets done with their work. And we can't, I would submit that it's not a good idea to put a time limit on internal audit doing their work. They'll be back to us when they're going to be back to us. So please approve this. Thanks.
Councilman Pridemore.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor, Chair, Pro Tem. You know, initially, I could understand if you want to have the defense of independent investigation during the initial part because there was somebody to investigate and there was some things that need to be answered. But now there is no one. There is no thing to investigate. And now all it is we're examining or re-examining policy. How the executive how the administration can utilize executive orders and that sort of thing, which in speaking with our legal department yesterday, it was well acknowledged that they are very capable of doing this examination and being impartial because it is impartial. All they're doing now is what many companies do. They ask their legal department to examine and re-examine their policies to make sure they're staying in line, that everyone is in line and they're in line with transparency. So again, I can understand initially, but at this point, all we're doing is requesting something, an outside agency to do that we are very capable of doing it and competent to do it, our legal department. And they talk about spending money on one hand, then turn around and spend money on another hand. And as far as finding out what the investigation revealed, once the case is closed, the TBI, they're public record. So that's my case. That's all I have to say about that.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Glover?
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Jamieson, I want to make sure I understand because I'm a bit confused. The committee could expand past the 15 hours if it so chose to do so.
Correct.
Correct. But in order for an invoice to be paid, it would have to come back to the council.
The initial resolution required a monthly invoice subject to the approval of this body.
Okay, so why aren't we, why don't we spell that out very clearly? 15 hours is it, and unless additional hours would have been needed, then we bring it back. Now, that's one of the questions I have. I think the second thing that we better be very aware of, we met yesterday afternoon. We're anticipating a $20 to a $25 million deficit in property tax revenues. I believe I can argue that we have a pretty substantial deficit on sales tax revenues. That's still, we're waiting to see that. So while this may only be $15,000, $16,000, that's money that apparently we don't have, given, I think, the hearings that are going on right now with the mayor, et cetera. I have to agree with my colleagues who have said we have legal counsel who's competent in order to help us with policies, because that's truly all we're looking at now is the policy. Nothing past that. And I fail to understand why a law firm out of Memphis is able to give us insight that we can't gather on our own by utilizing our own legal staff and the legal individuals who work for not only the law department, but also Mr. Jamieson, Hannah, and the group that we rely upon. So I'll renew. I think it's a bad move. I think it sends a bad message that says, we really don't care. We're going to go ahead and spend the money anyway. So I'm going to ask, we do defeat this. Again, it's a bad move. We're sending a bad message. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Swope?
Thank you, Your Honor. As one of the two committee members that voted against this resolution coming to this floor at all, I stand with fellow Councilman Glover and Mr. Pridemore and Mr. Hagar and a few others in here that are in opposition to this. This is essentially $6,000, which might not seem like a whole lot of money, but it's $6,000 that I don't think we need to spend. Both in the committee side and in Budget and Finance hearings yesterday, I think we established that Mr. Cooper and Mr. Jamieson are duly qualified attorneys to handle a legislative analysis of our own audit, all being held in a public forum through the committee, I don't think we need any outside counsel, and I would ask that everyone vote this down. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Council Lady Mina Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. I would like to ask our Council Jameson, when we ask for audit, our auditor, does he use internal Metro Legal Department, or is it their practice to hire outside legal?
He has within the code, he has a provision that allows him a budget for outside personnel should he decide he needs that in his own discretion.
Is it a normal practice to use, does he typically use our internal legal department for his work?
I believe so, but I would defer to Mr. Swan.
Just want to share my perspective. Originally, in the previous resolution, RS 1110, I was, in my opinion, to dismantle this special committee because, result was there. So why should we continue? Because auditor will be doing his work. However, during the conversation with Mr. Swan, I discovered in these special circumstances, Mr. Swan, our auditor, will be reporting to special committee instead of regular audit committee. And Mr. Swan, during the discussion, expressed it would be best interest for him to do his job properly, he would require outside counsel. And outside counsel was now Mayor, former Vice Mayor Briley, interviewed so many firms and recommended because of independency and expertise and so forth. And I am for not spending Metro money, but I am more for transparency and accountability. So have our auditor, Mr. Swan, to do his job and not providing his request of outside counsel is not giving 200%. So for that reason, I changed my mind to if we do our job right and going forward prevent this kind of mishappening is happening ever, I think it is our best interest to equip our auditor, Mr. Swan, with 100% tool he will need. For that reason, I am in support of this resolution.
Thank you, Council Lady. Seeing no one else in the queue, the resolution's been properly moved and seconded. All in favor? No. Opposed? No. Machine vote. Are we confused? Everybody voted? Madam Clerk, you can close the machine. Tally the vote, please. Oh, sorry. Hold on. I keep forgetting how to do that. Okay.
11 in favor, 22 against.
Motion fails. RS 2018-1113, request the Metro Transit Authority to be managed by one management structure and that the Metropolitan Transit Authority exercise its exclusive authority to name the Davidson Transit Organization as its sole management provider. Councilman Scott Davis.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I would like to add a friendly amendment as an add-on.
I think you need to move your amendment.
I'd like to move my amendment, please.
Is there a second? Do you have any discussion?
Sorry.
Discussion?
Yeah, yes. I just want to thank the countless, I want to thank my council colleagues for supporting this, but I want to thank Chairman Elrod, Sharon Hurt, Schulman, Freddie O'Connell, and many others who supported this move. During our transit conversations, no matter if we're for or against public transportation and more transit in the city, we never really included the people that get us to school and to work in the conversation. And I want to thank my colleagues for helping me recognize that. And I want to bring a voice to the table that sometimes we don't hear. Like sometimes when we talk about education, we talk to everybody else except for the teachers. We talk about, outsourcing and doing other kinds of cleaning services without talking to janitors or custodians. But this time we are talking to the bus drivers. And not just bus drivers, people that know how to drive trains, trolleys, and light rail. Our Metro bus drivers and our staff that work for MTA are highly trained in other areas. And they also train people from out of state. And so we are very blessed to have a professional group of individuals, women and men, who work for and serve our community every day. And I want to finally, with the help of my colleagues in the council, bring them to the forefront of the conversation. And a lot of people didn't realize that, we weren't hearing their voices. Some of them joined PATH and other organizations looking at trying to be a part of our conversations. But sisters and brothers, I want to let you know that this council and this body is going to correct those wrongs. A lot of you have reached out to teachers involving education. What's going on? People are reaching out to principals now. So I extend the hand of friendship and brotherhood to my bus drivers, my train drivers, and to the trolley drivers that we want you in the conversation. We want you to continue management. And for all my more conservative brothers and sisters on this council, having one management system will save us a lot of money. And right now, those jobs that are being done by MTA, believe it or not, are some of the better paying jobs with great benefits. And with our transit system, no matter what we're going to do, we're going to expand transit either by May 1st or through other means in the future. But we are bringing the people who have the right ideas and who will cost us less money to the table. And also those people that live in our communities, 90% of the bus drivers and train drivers, and yes, they drive trains here in Nashville, live in Davis County. Please support this resolution, and thank you for your time.
We need to get committee reports. Councilman Hager. Councilman Hager.
Anybody else in the queue? Okay, come on.
Move for passage.
Committee
on.
report on 1103, please.
I'm sorry.
Committee report on 1113, please.
Oh, sorry about that. Working on something else. 1113, parking and traffic approved 5-0.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Glover.
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Jameson, in reading this, I don't fully comprehend what it is we're actually trying to accomplish here. It was my understanding we do have one management firm that manages all of MTA. Are we actually saying that the Transportation Division under Metro Schools, under MTA, would all fall under one umbrella? Is that what this is saying?
No, the MTA is an unusual Metro creature. If you looked at its makeup, it only has one employee that's a Metro employee. Steve Bland, the chief executive officer, is the only Metro employee. All of the other employees, all the drivers, et cetera, are employees of Davidson Transit Organization. And that is an entity with which MTA happens to be contracting. And they've done that for decades, as long as I can remember. So originally the request was to require that relationship. Well, the charter gives MTA autonomy. They decide how they want to operate and who they want to contract with. They've happened to contracted with DTO for decades, and this resolution would encourage that relationship. It's non-binding because we can't tell them, but it encourages that continued relationship.
Okay, so I think that answers. All right. Well, I've learned something. I was not aware that that's exactly the structure, but I will say that if it's been working, if it's non-binding, I don't really understand the reason for it. Not to be disrespectful, but I get very nervous when we start putting things out there that sends a message that might not be translated properly. So thank you, Mr. Jameson. Thank you.
Councilman Swope.
Thank you, Your Honor. And I'm going to pick up right where Councilman Glover just left off. Councilor Jameson, even though this is non-binding, doesn't this send a message to say that MTA can only hire Davidson Transit Organization? In other words, say we build a train, God forbid, but say we build trains. And the Davidson Transit Organization doesn't have the best train operators, but yet maybe the contractor who built the train has the best train operators. Does this preclude MTA from hiring those train operators?
No, this is non-binding. This is a resolution that makes a mere request. It is not at all binding upon MTA.
Okay. And like Councilman Glover, I'm wondering why we're doing this. All due respect, Councilman Davis. Thank you.
Councilman Elrod.
Thank you, Madam President. To speak to some of the concerns, this is a non-binding resolution, but I think it speaks to some of the, with the transit referendum that's before the voters that is coming up. I think there are a lot of questions about affordable housing, debt service, how money will be spent, eminent domain, many questions. And one of those, I think, is how Metro, this council, future mayors are going to want to handle, will handle, you know, please God, that we do get light rail, you know, but the will of the voters actually is probably better. But that it does send a message that we do want to have Davidson County drivers, that that the Davidson Transit Organization is one that are trained to be bus drivers, to be light rail drivers, and that this is something that we want to look at now. And I think is also a statement that if the referendum passes, that it's not just something that it passes and then we forget all of the other issues that we've been talking about for months and years, you know, affordable housing and many others. This is just one small piece of it, that these drivers are here in Davidson County. They are part of MTA, have been doing the job, and that we need to be able to support those laborers in our community that are here in Nashville. So that's why I'm supporting it. It is non-binding, but I do think it does send a message to MTA to keep a one management structure, as far as there not be one separate from, you know, a bus and light rail will be separate, but that MTA stay as one whole piece. Thank you, ma'am.
Councilman O'Connell.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll kind of pick up from where Councilman Elrod left off here. As a former Nashville MTA board member, this was well known to all members of the board, and you know, basically it was clear from our governance policy that we as a board did not get involved in kind of the labor management conversation. We were basically a governance and policy board for the authority. You know, now I'm speaking from a different position, and I think this resolution is really there to anticipate that if we do witness a significant change in you know, modes offered by a transit system, et cetera, that basically, you know, given DTO's history and tradition, that it's worthwhile considering that that's an ongoing valid structure to use. And I fully appreciate Councilman Swope's concern for, you know, kind of ensuring that there is the best available. But I think this is also one of those opportunities to say, you know, should there be operators coming from other areas, that they will be able to come right into the DTO should this be there. But I mean, I guess I would reemphasize that I think the message is valid and that it is also non-binding. Thank you.
Council Lady Van Rees.
Thank you. Specifically, this resolution says to those who are not Metro employees but have been serving us, we see you, we value you, and we want you to continue to serve this city and to welcome those into your ranks as we grow. That's what this resolution is.
Councilman Davis.
I want to thank all my colleagues for their comments. And once again, you know, we have the best. When the Music City Star first started, it was over budgeted and it wasn't doing well. But then, when MTA and the RTA folks and the Davidson Transit Organization started to run it, it became a lot better. And we have the women and men in our communities here that could do the same job, and just putting it under and encouraging one management structure is the best way to go. And I'd like to move this for approval if we can.
Is there a
Madam Vice
second?
Mayor.
Seeing no discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. We're going to move to late filed resolutions. Council Lady Bircher, we've got your late filed resolution. Approves a Consumer Financial Protection Initiative grant from the Cities for Financial Empowerment Fund to the Mayor's Office of Resilience.
Thank you, Madam President. I need to move to suspend the rules.
There's a motion to suspend the rules, and is there any objection? Seeing none, Council Lady Bircher.
Thank you so much. I move for approval.
No, there's no, you can go to rules if you want.
Any second? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we're going to move to ordinances on first reading. If there is no objection, we will consider all ordinances on first reading in one vote at this time. Is there a motion and a second? Having been properly moved and second, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. That brings us to bills on second reading. BL 2018-1056 amends the Metro Code pertaining to online marketplace of short-term rental properties. Council Lady Allen.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Councilman Swope. Is his list there? Committee reports, please.
Oh, my apologies, Your Honor.
10:58.
Coast Fairs Farmers Market voted to defer for 3 meetings at the request of the sponsor, 5-4, 0 against.
Council Lady Allen.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I'd like to defer for 3 meetings.
There's a motion to defer for 3 meetings. Is there a second? Seeing no discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Motion to defer passes. BL 2018-1075 abandons existing sanitary sewer main and easements for property located at 4101 Ridgefield Drive. Council Lady Murphy.
Committee reports.
Councilman Bedney.
What is the suspense music? No? Okay. It was recommended for approval, 11-4, 0 against.
And Councilman Elrod.
Public Works recommend approval, 7 in favor, 0 against.
Move for approval.
Seeing no discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. BL 2018-1111 amends the Metro Code regarding the Board of Ethical Conduct and the Standards of Conduct. Councilman Glover.
Thank you, Madam President. Committee reports, please.
Council Lady Haywood.
1111 appeared before the Rules Committee, and we voted 5-4 and 0 against.
Thank you, Council Lady. Councilman Glover.
Move approval.
Okay, there's discussion. Councilman Elrod.
Thank you, Madam President. First, let me, start my comments that I absolutely believe that there needs to be an enforcement mechanism for some of the, particularly the executive orders dealing with ethics and code of conduct. However, I do believe the the ordinance as drafted may have some unintended consequences. First is that in the system of government that we have, the executive branch generally should be separate from the legislative branch. However, here in Metro government, all Metro employees are part of Metro government and therefore under the jurisdiction, I guess, of executive orders. Therefore, the ordinance intends that any executive order could be, any violation of executive order would be enforced, or a complaint could be filed with the Board of Ethics or a Board of Ethical Conduct, excuse me. So I'm afraid if there is some a overlap, or it removes some of the separation of power essentially between the legislative branch and the executive branch of Metro government. A mayor could write an executive order that all emails should be copied carbon copied to someone in the mayor's office, and any violation of that could go to the Board of Ethics, or anyone that's, there's a variety of ways where essentially the mayor's office or the executive branch could bring the legislative branch's employees under its auspices, and any violation of that could go to the Board of Conduct. Second is, while there are certainly several executive orders regarding code of conduct and ethics, there are many. In fact, just looking at the list of them, 40 as a matter of fact now, or at least, excuse me, as of the end of Mayor Berry's term in office, there were 40 of them dealing with tree policy, youth council, bicycle and pedestrian advisory committee, landscape coordination program, procurement appeals board. Now, there are others as far as brokering second or off-duty employment, and some of those others, drug-free workplace requirements, alcohol and drug testing that perhaps, need some kind of enforcement mechanism. But instead, I happen to be sitting in the Rules Committee, that executive orders are more for procedurally how things are done in the executive branch. I'm afraid of potential overreach and unintended consequences, that if there's an executive order that nobody shows up past 8 o'clock, but somebody starts showing up, at 8:05 a couple days a week, then that by the way that we are putting into the Code of Ordinances, that could be technically a violation of the Code of Conduct. You would have to have a hearing, potentially hire a lawyer. And for employees, it's just as I was reading the code, and Mr. Jameson, please correct me, that something would have to go back to the department head. Is that how it works? But it also, their executive orders, as written, you would be applying executive orders of the executive branch, or written by the head of the executive branch, but if an elected official were to violate them, basically the mayor could write an executive order that another elected official of Metro government could violate. And I think that, and it would have to go before the Board of Ethical Conduct. And I think that, while unintended, I think that could be a overreach. I would respectfully ask for a one-meeting deferral. I'm not trying to hurt your bill, Councilman. I promise you I'm not. I'm just worried about some of those unintended consequences. That's why, and because I'm not trying to hurt, I'm not moving for a one-meeting deferral, but I would just respectfully ask for one. Thank you.
So, Mr. Jameson, let me ask. Sorry.
There are other people in the queue.
Oh, sorry.
So hang on. Councilman O'Connell.
Thank you, Madam President. I suppose I'll start with a question from Metro Legal, which is who has the authority to enforce executive orders right now?
They are orders of the mayor, so the mayor or whoever the mayor delegates to enforce them.
Right, and so I think, I'm going to go ahead and make an assumption here of why this particular bill is on our agenda right now. But if the mayor is found to be in violation of an executive order, then what happens in that scenario?
Well, if this bill passes, you're talking about with this bill?
Right now,
without?
Today, no, but prior to passage of this bill.
There is no, there's no disciplinary action if the mayor violates an executive order.
Okay. And then, I guess now I'll go back over to our legal side of the fence. And Mr. Jameson, if this if this bill were to pass, then does that actually give council the legal authority to refer, or I guess just generally under the terms of how things get referred to the Board of Ethical Conduct, does this effectively expand the legal authority of that board?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And then I guess I am, with the answers to those questions, I am left with some of the same concerns that Councilman Elrod expressed. Thank you.
Councilman Withers.
Thank you. We're having a lot of discussion about policies and procedures with regard to personnel, whether they are elected or appointed or directly employed. And so my request, I think this is a great discussion that we all need to have in many regards, but my request would also be a one-meeting deferral, but with a referral to the Personnel Committee as well, so we can take a look at how this affects Metro employees specifically, if that would be okay.
Thank you. Councilman Mendez.
So there's been a motion to defer. What was there a motion to defer?
No. No, he said he requested it, but he didn't.
I didn't think so, but I heard a second from the back. I mean, I think this can move forward. I mean, the separation of powers argument is, well, I don't think it's valid. Assuming we pass an ordinance on 3 readings and the mayor signed it, then that would solve the separation of powers problem, because the executive branch would have signed up for it by signing onto it, and then there's a mechanism in the charter for what we do if the mayor refuses to sign it. Secondly, as far as the unintended consequences, I think we're basically talking about the people in the room who are elected, because everybody else is pretty much an employee of the executive branch and already subject to discipline from the mayor. So this just formalizes it rather than the ad hoc, the mayor, whoever the mayor appoints. I think we've seen a real life example recently why this matters. And I don't know that, nobody can point to an actual unintended consequence unless somebody in the room is trying to avoid a drug test. But I'm not sure about that. I think we can move forward on this. Nobody's articulated a reason that we need to hold this up.
Thank you, Councilman. Council-Lady Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Jameson. Could you, just for the community's benefit and colleagues as well, remind us what the Board of Ethical Conduct does? What is their membership? What is their charge? So that we can understand that.
The standards of conduct for all Metro employees, including elected officials in the metropolitan government, are set forth in our code in section 2.222. And they are a page and a half of various standards of conduct, fairly broadly drafted, everything from don't solicit bribes, don't accept various items. And at the end of that section, 2.222040 sets up the Board of Ethical Conduct, and it is their responsibility to enforce those standards. Complaints can be submitted by anyone, citizens. Those complaints are then submitted to the Metro Legal Department, which makes a recommendation to the board, and then the board acts upon it.
Thank you.
Councilman Mendez, were you seeking recognition again? Councilman Bednaik.
Thank you. So the committee that is working on evaluating what happened and come up with a recommendation, and the investigation is still going on. The only thing we did earlier today was not to give them the money to hire a lawyer. So I would like to make a motion to delay this, to defer this until we have an opportunity to have a comprehensive solution instead of a piecemeal approach to dealing with whatever issues we had before. I'm on the fence about this. I can see the benefit of what Councilmember Glover is proposing, but I'm just concerned about approaching this like a piecemeal effort instead of trying to go at the roots of the problem and come up with a solution. So I would like to make a motion to defer.
How many meetings?
one meeting.
Is there a second? I didn't hear it. There is a second. Councilman Glover, do you have any discussion?
Yeah, yes, if I may. I think it's pretty clear. When a complaint was made with regards to the conduct of the mayor as of recent, the legal department went outside and got an outside opinion, and they said that basically the executive order was outside the purview of the ethics board. That's exactly what prompted my move on this piece of legislation. Now, I'm not going to sit here and fight you over a one-meeting deferral, and I want to ask this question, if I can, Mr. Jameson. With regards to any amendment that could be made on this, it would have to be done on second, or can I make on third?
Third with a suspension of the rule, but it could be done, obviously, on second.
Okay, it could, but with let me make sure. So I could ask for a suspension of the rule to do a amendment on third?
Correct.
Okay. Well, first of all, I think it's the right thing to do, to go ahead and pass this. I'm not certain there's unintended consequences. I am certain there were unintended consequences of the public reading an executive order saying, you shall not do this. It was done, and then we were told, I'm sorry, the Board of Ethics Review, they can't touch this. So from that standpoint, there was an unintended consequence. I'll leave it up to the body. I would prefer us not defer it. And if I can ask for a suspension of the rules on third, if people are okay with that, I will amend on third if after conversation with Mr. Jameson and other legal matters here, or other legal minds here, makes sense on what we've got. But I believe we have something that makes sense. I believe we have something that tells the public that if an executive order is given, and Mr. Jameson, let me expand the question to that. The next mayor, once that administration changes, all executive orders are off the table. So this is not a rolling rule that would apply to an executive order, I'll just say, as Mayor Purcell may have done.
That is correct. Typically, upon a new administration, they will reenact those executive orders with which they agree, but otherwise, executive orders expire with the administration.
Okay, so therefore, I feel like that we're probably in a pretty good space on this. I will do as the body wishes, but I think we need to go ahead and pass it. I think we need to send a message that says, yeah, if we're gonna offer an executive order, if we're gonna say this is the way we will conduct ourselves in office, then let's be willing to live up to that and abide by that. So I will not be supporting the deferral, but I will honor whatever the body's request is tonight. Thank you.
Councilman Withers.
Thank you so much. I would be interested to know whether, I'm speaking to the motion to defer. I'm wondering whether the person who brought the motion to defer would accept an amendment to that motion to defer, but also refer to personnel.
Councilman Bednarik?
Yeah, I actually meant to say that. Thanks, Councilmember Withers. Yes, it'll be great to do that, to refer back to personnel. Thank you.
Okay, so there's an amendment to the deferral motion to defer the meeting, to defer the bill one meeting, and then to re-refer over to the Personnel Committee. Okay, is anybody wanting to speak on the deferral motion? Council Lady Haywood.
I would just like to stand in opposition to the deferral. Councilman Glover came before the Rules Committee, and unanimously we voted with him in terms of this particular bill. So I would just like to stand in favor of this bill and in opposition to the deferral.
Thank you, Council Lady. Councilman Hastings.
I would also, Madam President, I would also like to stand in opposition to this deferral. Would like to move on because, guys, this is our job. This is what we were elected to do. Every piece doesn't play out things. We were elected to overlook and oversee what the city is doing. And if whatever that we need to change, we need to change it. We need to get it right. There's so many things that are up in front of us that we are allowing to pass by us, and I don't think there's any time that we need to waste. So please support this bill or this resolution or whatever that we have right now, because this is very important. This tells our constituents what we promised to do when we asked for their vote is to stand up and to speak for them. This is their money, this is their time, and we have to make sure that it's done. And if we don't do that, guys, we shouldn't be bold enough, or we shouldn't be in the place that we're in right now. All right? Thank you.
Councilman Withers.
Thank you. I would actually argue the exact same reasons as the reasons for the deferral and referral to personnel. If we're going to make a decision like this, I, as the Personnel Committee Chair, and I know we've got several other members of the committee as well, just want to understand how this affects our employees or how any executive orders affect our employees. I think this is a really pertinent discussion that we're having in the city. Having an additional meeting so we can flesh that out, perhaps have some additional feedback from Human Resources just so that we can all understand that a little bit better, I believe is a reasonable request, and I would encourage folks to vote for the deferral and the referral to personnel.
Thank you, Councilman. Council Lady Vercher.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm just curious to know what we're going to learn between tonight passing it as opposed to a deferral. I know there's been a request for it to go before the Personnel Committee. I would argue that those concerns could be addressed outside of the deferral. Mr. Jamison, can you speak to, or can anyone speak to as to why this did not go through the Personnel Committee anyway?
I think it was deemed appropriate for the Rules Committee alone, and certainly amenable to Personnel Committee consideration, but that was the determination at the time.
Yeah, I think we don't need to defer it. I think we can go ahead and move forward with it. I don't know what we're going to gain with the deferral as it relates to knowledge for this ordinance.
Councilman Elrod.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to echo Councilman Withers' thoughts. It is because we were elected to try to make tough decisions that I am greatly worried about expanding the scope of the Board of Ethical Conduct into unintended consequences, which I enumerated a few minutes ago. Executive orders ensure the Metropolitan Tree Policy, the paid family leave, Nashville Regional HIV Planning Council, the Nashville Council on Gender Equality, Veterans Day designation, Combined Information Security Orders, copying public records, open data policy, complete streets policy, landscape coordination program, underground storage tanks, Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, Healthy Nashville Leadership Council, that with simply adding the words and executive orders into the code of ordinances, all of these executive orders that I just listed would be enforced through the Board of Ethical Conduct. That is the unintended consequences that I'm worried about, that the Board of Ethical Conduct would be put in the place of doing that instead of it going to the council or the relevant departments. That those are where those complaints should go to instead of the Board of Ethical Conduct. So the reason to defer it is to potentially limit the language of the ordinance and to come up with the language of what I believe is the intent of the sponsor, which I 100% agree with. That if we have executive orders about the conduct of employees and as far as no conflict of interest or in carrying out their duties so that there's no abuse of funds, it absolutely should have a place of enforcement. But I don't think it's appropriate to expand it to the Office of Fleet Management or the Domestic Abuse Death Review. So that's why I'm supporting the deferral motion, is to potentially amend the ordinance to limit it. Thank you.
Council Lady Murphy.
Thank you. As the previous chair of personnel over the past 2 years, the first 2 years of our term, there were a number of times that bills were referred to committee that I would catch either on first reading or second reading and ask referred to our committee. There's a number of times over the past 2 years that I remember that Council Lady of the 8th District asked for things to be referred to the Convention Center, because it really wasn't until we got into the Convention Committee, because it wasn't until we maybe got into the floor on second reading and realized that it touched that committee. I do not think it's unreasonable that we request that this goes to the Personnel Committee because it has impact on personnel. I am asking y'all to support our current personnel chair and make sure that this is just re-referred. Simply because we have one committee recommendation does not mean that there's another committee or specialized view that we need to look at it with as well. I mean, that's why bills are referred to multiple committees here, unlike in other places in government. I don't think this is unreasonable. I don't think it's going to be the end of the world if we wait another week or two so we can look at this and the effects on our personnel metro-wide and here as a body. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Lady Hurt.
Thank you, Madam President. Call for the question, please.
Is there a second? There's been a call for the question. We have a request motion for deferral with a referral to the Personnel Department for one meeting. Is there a second to that? All in favor? Opposed? Machine, please.
Point of order. We were just calling the question there, were we not?
Right, you want to have the vote on the calling of the question.
I am so sorry, y'all.
Okay. Yeah.
Thanks, Steve.
Okay.
Okay, so let's call all in favor of calling the question. Raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Let us move to the request for the deferral for one meeting with referral to personnel. Anybody in the queue wanting to speak? Good. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. It will be deferred one meeting with referral to personnel. Thank you for bearing with me. BL 2018-1112 approves a lease agreement between Metro Government and Donaldson Corporate Center for office space at 3055 Lebanon Road. Councilman Mendez, you need to abstain on this one. Okay. Will you note him as abstaining, please? Council Lady Vercher.
Thank you, Madam President. Budget and Finance recommended approval, 10-4, 0 against, with 1 not voting, and I'll call for committee reports.
Councilman Bednay.
The committee recommended approval, 11-4, 0 against.
Council Lady Roberts.
Thank you, Madam President. Public Safety voted 4 in favor, 0 against.
Council Lady Vercher.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for approval.
Is there a second? Having been properly moved and seconded, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. BL 2018-1113 changes the name of a portion of Charlotte Avenue to Dr. M.L. King Jr. Boulevard. Council Lady Hurt.
Thank you, Madam President. Should I call for committee reports?
Mm-hmm. Councilman Bednay.
The committee recommended approval, 10-4, 0 against, and 1 no voter.
Councilman Elrod.
Public Works recommended approval, 6 in favor, 0 against, 1 not voting.
Councilman Hager.
Traffic parking pass, 5-4, 0 against.
Council Lady Hurt, let me ask if anybody has an objection to reviewing the slide. Does anybody have an objection to reviewing this slide? Seeing none, Council Lady Hurt.
Thank you, Madam President. And I just want to make a statement simply because I made promises to do so. But I wanted to thank each of those individuals who came out to support this legislation. I specifically want to recognize members of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, Nashville Metropolitan Alumni Chapter. If you all would please stand. This group of ladies were, when they first started in 1913, when they were founded, their first action was the women's suffrage. And so they have stood for social justice, and I appreciate them coming out. So I say that I want to also give thanks to those who did not support this legislation, for it required me to listen to the concerns and do more research. I appreciate those who also provided me with historical information. I thank Lucas Leverett, who stayed very passionate and committed to seeing this legislation through, although I know there was another location suggested But from the research and all the things considered that was presented to me, this is by far the best location. As you will see on the map, Charlotte Avenue is 13.5 miles long. That's the green line that you see. And this legislation extracts just 1 mile of it to honor one of the world's most iconic figures, and that's the red that you see. Some have asked the question, why not go to a numbered street? Why not name it after another woman like Diane Nash, John Lewis, Bobby Kane, someone who did great things for Nashville? How much does it cost, and why not a longer distance? So here are my answers respectively. Most numbered streets are heavily residential areas, and it would create problems in changing too many addresses for families, people. The existing law states that to name a street after someone, they must be non-living. And it costs about $200 a sign for, and that sign and labor for each intersection. And by the way, the governor's office has approved and called specifically to say that they had no opposition to this. And this stretch offers the least impact where there are no residents and few businesses. Thus, it makes it easier to accomplish, yet it is the most significant, as it is the state capital that sets the tone for the entire state. I especially thank Mr. Carey for providing me with more historical information that I promised to share. Therefore, this street was named after Charlotte Robinson. The name preceding Charlotte was Cedar Street. At Cedar and 4th, that's where the Nashville slave trade occurred, and it also housed jails for slaves. In fact, the Nashville government once owned slaves, and during the construction of the state capitol in 1849, a slave died in the quarry where the capitol was built. Knowing this history, one may say renaming Charlotte to MLK Boulevard is inappropriate, and others would say for the same reasons it is appropriate. I implore my colleagues to do as I have and look at the glass half full. We respect our history and embrace our future. That's why I decided to stay in Nashville after pursuing a career after college here in Nashville. Originally from Memphis, there when Dr. King was assassinated, I know and felt the rage and anger and saw the violence even as a child that occurred during that time. However, when I got to Nashville, I realized that this was a place of civility, one that had a nonviolent approach and gave people their freedom of speech, even though there were teenagers, young adult college students. One that MLK said he came to get inspired and not bring inspiration. One that now is the melting pot for all people. One that is welcoming 100 people from all over the world each day. One that seeks to bring international soccer. One where music is a universal language. So I ask you to join me today and do as Mayor Briley, that's Beverly Briley, about 50 years ago, the right thing. Renaming this small portion of Charlotte Avenue to MLK Boulevard, where the state capitol lies, is a fitting testament of respect for our history and embracing our future. From the east to the west in the great state of Tennessee. Thank you.
Councilman O'Connell. Please let us finish. Thank you. Councilman O'Connell.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm here to rise in support of this. I'm a co-sponsor of this as this renaming portion does take place within District 19. I would like to commend Council Lady Hurd for entertaining. I had a constituent who had raised another proposal to do exactly this. And I think for me personally, it is far less important where we do it than that we do it. And I think Council Lady Hurt has demonstrated that not only does this have appropriate levels of support, I'm also extraordinarily impressed at the limited opposition that this has received. I think that suggests that not only has Council Lady Hurd, as the lead sponsor of this, done her homework, I think it also suggests that there is a general recognition that the city is prepared to do this as well. So I'm just here to rise in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Kendall.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I also rise in support of this. When this idea first came up, naming a street has been a long time conversation, naming a street after Dr. Martin Luther King. And when Sharon first came to me with the concept, without violating the Sunshine Law, she and I both thought about Charlotte Street, Charlotte Avenue, because that was first conversation was about the connector, the 28th, 31st, and I was opposed to that, to be honest. And I know there has been a gentleman who is supporting that. That's in my district, and I would be honored to have a street named after Dr. King in my district. But I felt like Charlotte Avenue would be the most appropriate place to put this. If you think about it, Dr. King represented a joining of communities. And when I grew up, Charlotte Avenue, at that time it was called Cedar Street, at least from downtown on 4th Avenue all the way up to 12th or 14th, it was called Cedar Street. From that point out, it was called Charlotte, and it still is. And that was kind of the dividing street in Nashville between the African-American community and the white community at that time. If you went down Charlotte, that was really a dividing point of that. If you went from 4th and Charlotte down to around 19th, it was predominantly all black, all African-American businesses. Many of you know I've written a book about Jefferson Street, but I also could write one about Cedar Street because it was a prime area in the city for African-American businesses. And so I think it's an appropriate street. You're still going to have Charlotte, so we're not taking anything away from the lady who Charlotte was named after, because actually Cedar Street was not Charlotte Avenue in the beginning. It was Cedar Street. And you had Capitol Boulevard and Cedar Street, which was right there at the Capitol. You had right around the Capitol, you had what was called Hell's Half Acre. And that was a slum area. For many, many years, up until about, I think, 1949, they actually had slum homes and all right around the foot of the Capitol. Most of you probably already know that history. But I think this is an appropriate place to name the street. Like I say, I'd be proud to have it in my community, but I don't want to get in a fight with those folk on 31st. You know, I've had a lot of problems with that. And of course, this council, the previous council, they were trying to name that same connector from West End down to Jefferson Street, I think after Ed Temple, if you all recall in the previous council, and there's a lot of controversy about that. But if you do that in that area, you would change a lot of addresses. People would have to change their driver's license, voter registration cards. But in this particular location, you have very little impact as it relates to that kind of impact on the community. So I encourage you to vote for this. I think it's appropriate. I think it'll add to this city as a whole. People will see that we respect Martin Luther King legacy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman. Council Lady Mina Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I was the one no vote from the committee not because I don't support this one. It hurts me I could not vote just because with respect to my constituent. And also, I did not have sufficient historical information, but I think Councilmember Kendall and Councilmember Hart did a great job explaining why it should be adopted. So because until now, I did not have good reason for my support for this bill to object of my constituent. And I really appreciate information, and I really appreciate leadership of Councilmember Hart. And I think it's about time as a Nashville to have the Boulevard honor Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And for that, despite of my no vote on the committee, I will wholeheartedly support this ordinance, and want to thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Hastings.
Yes, Madam President. I just wanted to stand, me being a kid of a family that moved here to Nashville from Limestone County, Alabama. And they moved to an area, a street called Shanklin Alley that was on the bottom of the Capitol, which was those slums that our councilman talked about. And for me being one of those children to hear all of the stories about it raining inside of the house and being able to look up through the ceiling and see the stars. And then also for today to be able to be in a place to where I can name something after some African American that has done great things to bridge the gaps somehow in the city. I take it as an honor. I was in a place to where she brought it to us. Councilwoman brought this up to us, and in my district, I have a bridge that's named after M.L. King, and I wanted the bridge to go a little bit further. And then after we talked and we saw some things, I said, why are we just stopping at a mile? I think we need to go just a little bit further. And I was probably the person that she talked about in her great speech. But I can say I will stand with her to start this gap because we have to continue to go. And me being a generations after that, because my birth mom lived in Shanklin Alley as a kid, moving here. So it hadn't been that far away. But we're going to step up and we're going to support this to make sure it gets done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Kendall, are you seeking recognition again?
I just wanted to state the reason, I think, for the distance of it. The city only owns that portion of Charlotte. From that point out, I think it's state highway.
Thank you, Councilman, for the clarification. Seeing no one else in the queue, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. BL 2018-1120. BL 2018-1120 abandons a portion of Hadley Road right-of-way. Councilman Hager.
Committee reports.
Councilman Elrod.
Public Works recommend approval, 7 in favor, 0 against.
Councilman Hager.
Traffic and parking approved 5-0. Move for passage.
Thank you. We have discussion. Councilman O'Connell.
I'd just like to rise and say that I do think that Nashville is also ready for this geographic information systems alley center line layer. Thank you.
Seeing no one else in the queue, all in favor? You're not pushed. Councilman Bedney.
Committee report, planning recommended approval, 11-4-0 against.
Thank you very much. I overlooked that one. Seeing no one else in the queue now, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Now we're on bills on third reading. We have second substitute bill 2017-932. Councilman Scott Davis.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Councilman Bedname.
The committee recommended to defer to the second meeting in May, 11-4-0 against.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Davis.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to defer to the second meeting in May, please.
There's a motion to move to the second meeting in May, and there's a properly second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Substitute Bill 2017-1027. Council Lady Lee. Changes 21.36 acres from AR2A to RS10 zoning for properties located at 12474 and 12478 Old Hickory Boulevard. Council Lady Lee.
Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. May I have committee reports?
All have been approved already.
Of that? Okay. Then I make a move to, I'd like to place a motion to approve.
Seeing all committee reports in, and there's a motion and properly seconded, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. BL 2017-1040 changes 20.9 acres from AR2A to SP zoning for property located at 3461 Hamilton Church Road to permit 158 residential units. Council Lady Lee.
Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion to defer for 3 meetings with a slight explanation.
Let me get committee reports first. Councilman Bednay.
Yes, the committee recommended approval, 11-4-0 against.
Council Lady Lee.
I'd like to have a committee, another community meeting on this. I am in the process now of trying to meet with my superintendent and school board member because of all of the influx of developments in our area and the overcrowding school. And we're going to have a community meeting with them to talk about some of these changes. And I would like to try to set that up and talk with them before I ask for approval of this.
So you're asking for a 2-meeting deferral?
A 3-meeting deferral.
3-meeting deferral, I'm
Yes.
sorry. So there's a motion for a 3-meeting deferral. Is there a second? Properly moved and seconded. There is no more discussion in the queue. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
BL 2018-1045, Councilman Glover, changes 69.76 acres from RS-15 to SP zoning for property located at Earhart Road, unnumbered, to permit up to 146 single-family lots and 18 single-family attached lots. Councilman Glover.
Thank you, Madam President. Committee reports, please.
Councilman Bednay.
Yes, the committee recommended approval, 11-4-0 against.
Councilman Glover.
Move approval.
Having been moved and properly seconded, seeing no one in the queue, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. BL 2018-1062 changes .54 acres from IWD to MUNA zoning for properties located at 1200 Baptist World Center Drive and Spurgeon Avenue, unnumbered. Councilman Hastings.
Thank you, Madam President. The committee, please.
Councilman Bednay.
The committee recommended approval, 10-4-0 against, and 1 member not voting.
Councilman Hastings.
Yes, Mr. President, move for approval.
Is there a second? Seeing properly moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
BL 2018-1083 changes 5.59 acres from IWD to SP zoning for property located at 40 Rachel Drive to permit 2 hotels. Councilman Syracuse.
Sorry, Madam. Committee reports, please.
Councilman Bednay.
The committee recommended approval, 11-4-0 against.
Councilman Syracuse.
Move approval.
Having been properly moved and seconded, there's no one in the queue. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. BL 2018-1084 applies a contextual overlay for 43.71 acres for various properties located along Riverside Drive, Porter Road, Creighton Avenue, Carter Avenue, McKennell Drive, Greenwood Avenue, and Pierman Drive. Councilman Anthony Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Committee report.
Councilman Bednay.
The committee reviewed the substitute and recommended the substitute for approval and the legislation as substituted, 11-4-0 against.
Councilman Davis.
I will first move the substitute, please.
Is there a second? Having been properly moved and seconded, there's no one in the queue. All in favor? Opposed? Your substitute passes.
Thank you. I will move this contextual overlay as substituted.
Thank you. Is there a second? Having been properly moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. BL 2018-1085 changes 5.28 acres from AR2A to SP zoning for properties located at 6438 and 6444 Pettus Road and a portion of 6424, 6434 Pettus Road to permit retail and a restaurant. Councilman Bednay.
Committee reports.
Councilman Bednay.
The committee was excited to recommend approval. It reviewed the amendment and recommended approval of the amendment, 11-4-0 against.
And he would like to move the amendment. Is there a second? Seeing no one in the queue, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Your Honor, bill is amended.
And I would like to request the support of the bill as amended.
Having been properly moved and seconded, seeing no one in the queue, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. BL 2018-1086 amends 1.21 acres of a specific plan for various properties located on Scoville Street and 10th Avenue North to permit an additional 4 multifamily residential units. Councilman O'Connell.
Thank you, Madam President. Committee reports, please.
Councilman Bedney.
The committee recommended approval, 11 for, 0 against.
Councilman O'Connell.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to move approval.
Is there a second? Having been properly moved and seconded, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. BL 2018-1087 changes 2.75 acres from OR 20 to SCR zoning for a portion of property located at 4095B Nolensville Pike. Councilman Elrod.
Thank you, Madam President. The part of the evening I've been waiting for all evening. Council or committee reports, please.
Councilman Bedney.
Yes, ma'am. The committee recommended approval, 11 for, 0 against.
Councilman Elrod.
Your approval means so much to me, Councilman Bedney. Committee reports in. I move approval.
Is there a second? Having been properly moved and seconded, no one in the queue, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. BL 2018-1088 changes 0.15 acres from R6 to OR 20A zoning for property located at 754 Linwood Avenue. Councilman Sledge.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee report, please.
Councilman Bedney.
The committee recommended approval, 11 for, 0 against.
Councilman Sledge.
I'd move approval.
Is there a second? Having been properly moved and seconded, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. BL 2018-1089 changes 0.4 acres from IWD to RM20A zoning for property located at 849 Cherokee Avenue. Councilman Scott Davis.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Councilman Bedney.
The committee recommended approval, 11 for, 0 against.
Councilman Davis.
Move for approval.
Having been properly moved and seconded, seeing no one in the queue, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. BL 2018-1090 changes 1.1 acres from RS 40 to SP zoning for property located at 6719 Charlotte Pike to permit 11 multifamily units. Council Lady Mina Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Committee report, please.
Councilman Bedney.
The committee reviewed the amendment and it recommended approval of the amended legislation, 11 for, 0 against.
Council Lady Johnson.
Thank you. I would like to move amendment, please.
Is there a second? Having been properly moved and seconded, all in favor of the amendment? Opposed? Council Lady Johnson.
I'd like to move the bill as amended with a brief explanation.
Floor is yours.
Thank you. What this amendment will do is reduce the height of the last 2 units closer to single home residential unit to 2-story and 27 in height, and also limit the width of the balcony, and also limit the no balcony on the 3rd floor except on the unit 1 to 5, and as well as clarify the buffer from the stream and build the fence. And also attached is the elevation and rendering. The reason is when we had past experience of the SP bill, as much as we thought we had a great product, but when it comes to final SP, sometimes what we imagined we are agreeing it and what the builder will build with somewhat a change. So we wanted to make sure as a community we are expecting and what development team will be building will be the kind of same ballpark. And with this bill, amendment will achieve it. And by doing so, amendment with back and forth with planning, I do appreciate Mr. Jameson's help. But however, we do miss our Metro Council liaison, Brandon Barnett, greatly. So I would like him to come back to us very soon. And for that, I renew my motion, and I would like to ask for approval.
Is there a second? Having been properly moved and seconded, no one in the queue, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. BL 2018-1091 changes .76 acres from ORIA to SP zoning for properties located at 821, 823, 825, and 827 19th Avenue South to permit a mixed-use development. Councilman O'Connell.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to request committee reports, please.
Councilman Bednay.
Yeah, the committee recommended approval, 11-4, 0 against.
Councilman O'Connell.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to move approval.
Having been properly moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. BL 2018-1092 changes .81 acres from MUL to MULA zoning for property located at 1010 28th Avenue North. Councilman Kendall.
Thank you, Madam President, Vice Mayor, Your Highness, Your Honor, and Empress. I think I added the Empress that time.
Oh, Lord.
I'd like to call for committee reports.
Councilman Bednay.
What he said. The committee recommended approval, 11-4, 0 against.
Councilman Kendall.
Move approval.
Having been properly moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. BL 2018-1093 changes .52 acres from RS10 to SB zoning for property located at 425 Woodbury Court to permit a maximum of 1 two-family residential unit. Councilman Syracuse.
Thank you, Madam President. Committee reports, please.
Councilman Bednay.
The committee recommended approval, 11-4, 0 against.
Councilman Syracuse.
Move approval.
Having been properly moved and seconded, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. BL 2018-1094 changes 7.35 acres from CL to SP zoning for property located at 7300 Charlotte Pike to permit all uses within the CL zone district and a microbrewery. Councilman Rosenberg.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Committee reports, please.
Councilman Hager.
Traffic and parking pass, 5-4-0 against.
Councilman Rosenberg.
Your Worship, was that not referred to planning and zoning and historical, 1094?
This has referred to planning, zoning, and historical. Hager. Sorry about that. Councilman Bednay. I'm just reading. Councilman Bednay, committee report, please.
Yes, ma'am. The committee recommended approval, 11-4, 0 against.
Councilman Rosenberg.
Thank you, Your Lordship, and thank you. Move approval, please.
Councilman O'Connell.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm just curious. I feel like in so many months of observing the zoning patterns in that particular council district, I've yet to see a microbrewery emerge until Councilman Rosenberg started running bills. I don't know if this is a coincidence, so I don't know if the sponsor would like to speak to that. Thank you.
I'll open the floor for Councilman Rosenberg to take that over for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman O'Connell, and thank you, Your Magnificence. In fact, it did take a different council member taking over that district to really kick that wonderful establishment into high gear, although it did begin its illustrious run under Her Grace.
Oh, Lord, y'all. Having been properly moved and seconded, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. BL 2018-1095 changes .14 acres from IWD to MULA zoning for property located at 1229 Martin Street. Councilman Sledge. Hang on a minute, I got to find it. There you go.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee report.
Councilman Bednay.
The committee recommended approval, 11-4, 0 against.
Councilman Sledge.
Move approval.
Is there a second? Having been properly moved and seconded, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. BL 2018-1096 changes .87 acres from RS5 to SP zoning for properties located at 1699, 1701, 1703, and 1705 Leachy Avenue to permit up to 13 multifamily residential units. Councilman Scott Davis.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Councilman Bednay.
The committee recommended approval, 11-4, 0 against.
Councilman Davis.
Before I move for approval, I'd like to enter some letters of support and the opposition to the project into the record like I promised.
Thank you.
I'd like to move for approval, please.
Having been properly moved and seconded, Council Lady Mina Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Yesterday, I did ask planning table because we have received all of a sudden so many opposition, and this bill is unanimously approved by Planning Commission. So I am having great difficulty what to think of it. And as I understand, currently there is a community chalet is going on, and so this area might be stay as a neighborhood evolving or may change other area. Could planning table kind of give us a little bit more insight on that current community planning process?
Hang on. Where's the table? I got it.
Sure. There is a community planning process going on for the Highland Heights neighborhood, which this property is located within. It does cover a larger area there between Dickerson and Ellington, south of Trinity. The charrette process, which was a 4-day-long process in the community, has been completed, and our planning department is currently in the process of preparing the community plan amendment that would cover that entire area. That is still in the works. However, this project was submitted before that process began, and this project was reviewed under the existing neighborhood land use policy of neighborhood evolving.
Thank you. So if we approved and then by any chance all of a sudden the community plan was going back to neighborhood maintenance, so this one section of the project will be much higher density than existing community or future community plan.
Not necessarily. This is a neighborhood evolving area that is on the edge, adjacent to a neighborhood maintenance area. Given the adjacency to neighborhood maintenance, care was taken in the review of this project to ensure that there were appropriate transitions to that neighborhood maintenance policy. The form is a detached product, and through working with the department, the number of units were decreased from the original application to what was eventually approved by the Planning Commission. And so there was care taken in regards to the location and the adjacency to an existing maintenance to provide for an appropriate transition.
Thank you. I stated yesterday, I think this project is a great project on itself because it has sidewalks and it has internal sidewalks and a great buffer. But I think the community's concern is just density, because originally it came from 15, is now 13. And I think what I'm hearing from the community, and I'm sure you all read the email as well, they would like to support lesser density. So for that, I'm not opposing it, but I cannot bring myself to support it. So for that reason, I will be abstaining.
Thank you. Council Lady Kathleen Murphy.
I'd also like to be marked as abstaining.
Councilman Brett Withers.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. We had a good discussion about this in our Planning, Zoning, and Historical Committee yesterday with regard to, I know one of the questions I had was pertaining to the status of the right-of-way which would be built out, and it's my understanding from that discussion is that there is currently right-of-way that is not built out, but this project would require that the builder would construct the street to at least to the edge of their property line within that existing right-of-way. And if I'm misstating that, please let me know. But
no, that's correct. There is existing right-of-way for Marshall Street, a 50-foot public right-of-way existing from Lishy through to Jones. This developer would be responsible for constructing the actual cross-section of the street to Metro standards from Lishy to the back property line, and that would provide the access to the project there. But there is existing right-of-way through to Jones.
thank you for that clarification. Another matter that has been just discussed, I guess, in the community, or that I'm aware of discussion of within the community, pertains to the submission of letters to be a matter of public record in the sense that letters are being, given to the Sergeant at Arms to be admitted to the record. I mean, obviously, all emails to Metro Council are, well, number one, we receive all of them, but also emails to Metro Council are a matter of public record. Would I be able to get clarification from Mr. Jamison with regard to emails or documents in a hard copy format that are submitted, as was the case with this one? How exactly are those public record, and how could Metro Council members or the rest of the public actually have an opportunity to review those?
The clerk's office maintains them. There is a reference in the minutes to the fact that they were introduced, and the clerk's office has them accessible to the public for review.
So if a member of the public wanted to review them, they could contact the clerk's office to do that. I guess one of the things that maybe I would request, I don't know that I would go so far as to do a motion, but just request of the sponsor is that since there is discussion about this facet of handing in letters, would it be possible for the sponsor to consider a one-meeting deferral of the third reading so that those documents could be made available, at least just to council members, so that we ourselves could kind of review the amount of neighbor support or opposition, as well as the public, prior to voting for this on third. I'm generally supportive of it, but I think there is a valid concern from the public about just access to that level of neighbor correspondence. And that's just a request. I'm not making a motion.
Thank you. Council Lady Roberts.
I'd like to be marked as abstaining, please.
Thank you. Councilman Davis.
Good result from the Planning Commission, planning staff, reduction. The developer entered a community benefits agreement, which they fixed before their approval, 2 roofs of homes on Lishy. We reduced the number of units. We're making them build sidewalks. We're making them do a connection. I mean, I get it's easier just to run a disapproved bill because I get no neighborhood opposition majority of the time when we do that. And so we get planning support, and it's everybody's prerogative to abstain, but we're in a budget kind of crunch right now. We need all the taxable properties. This is a vacant, empty parcel. No one was displaced. In fact, by fixing the homes of 2 of our neighbors that live on Lishy, kept people in affordable housing, original residents. Now, we have residents on both sides, for and against. Maybe I'll just tell everybody I'll cut off the letters of support and opposition, and they want to speak in record at second reading from now on. But this went in front of the Neighborhood Association. Scott Morton with Smith G, which we all know, did the designs. They came to 3 Neighborhood Association meetings. We discussed it. It was deferred at planning 3 times at least, maybe 4. And we took our time. And what's going to happen, Lishy's, with the amount of people that came out in support, more of Lishy may be more evolving. So we might come back and the street's even more evolving because we have vacant, blighted, empty pieces of land. Something needs to go there because our tax revenue will only give us maybe $500, if we're lucky, $1,000 for those vacant houses. But for our 13 units, that's around $2,000 per home, which will give us close to a little bit close to 50, a little bit over 50 grand in revenue here or there. So I move for approval.
Is there a second? Seeing no one else in the queue and having been properly moved and seconded, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. BL 2018-1097 changes .54 acres from RS5 to SP zoning for properties located at 2122 Herman Street and Herman Street unnumbered to permit 10 multifamily residential units. Councilman Kendall.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I'd ask for a committee report.
Councilman Bednay.
Yes, the committee recommended approval 11-4-0 against.
Councilman Kendall.
Madam Chair, at this time, I'm going to move to defer this 2 meetings with a brief explanation.
Floor is yours.
I I've been in some discussion with the developer here regarding, I'm kind of on a mission to try to get some affordable housing in my district. And we've had some discussions, but I think I need to have some further on this as to what the plans are for this particular project. So I would move to defer it a couple of meetings to give me an opportunity to further discuss this matter.
There's a motion to defer 2 meetings with a second. No one in the queue. Having been properly moved and seconded, anyone wish to speak? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. BL 2018-1098 changes 6.93 acres from CS to IWD and IWD to MUG zoning for property located at 540 Royal Parkway. Councilman Syracuse.
Thank you, Madam President. Committee reports, please.
Councilman Bednay.
Yes, the committee recommended approval, 11-4-0 against.
Councilman Syracuse.
Move approval.
Is there a second? Having been properly moved and seconded, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. BL 2018-1099 changes .27 acres from RS5 to SP zoning for property located at 207 Myrtle Street to permit up to 4 multifamily residential units. Councilmember Scott Davis.
Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Bednay.
The committee voted to defer indefinitely and re-refer to the Planning Commission, 11-4-0 against.
Councilman Davis.
At my request at the Planning Committee meeting, I want this deferred indefinitely and be sent back to the Planning Commission. Please.
Is there a second? Having been properly moved and seconded, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. BL 2018-1100 changes 2.78 acres from R15 to SP zoning for properties located at 401 Kenhawk Drive and Nolensville Pike unnumbered to permit all uses permitted by MUL zoning except alternative financial services, bar or nightclub, flea market, hotel motel, mobile storage units, and automobile parking. Councilmember Swope.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please. I think first, Counselor, help me out here.
Councilman Bednay.
Councilmember Swope was at the Planning Committee meeting, but it went too long, and so we had to, when we got to his legislation, he wasn't there, so we decided to defer by rule. So that's it.
Councilman Swope.
And I would move to suspend the rules.
There's a motion to suspend the rules. Is there anyone in opposition? Seeing none, all in favor of the suspension of the rules? Opposed? Councilman Swope.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. With that said, I have an amendment to this, and I'd like to move the amendment. Actually, I have to suspend the rules again to move the amendment, I believe.
Right. There's a suspension of the rules. Anybody in opposition? All in favor of the suspension of the rules? Opposed? Councilman Swope.
Thank you. I would, at this point, move the amendment with a brief comment.
Floor is yours.
Okay, this is a disapproved bill from planning, but to be very clear about this, what was disapproved in planning is not what we're voting on tonight. What was disapproved in planning was a base zoning change from AR-15 to MUL. What we've done as a consequence is meet with the neighbors, not once, not twice, but multiple times, and I've had hundreds of phone conversations with the neighbors that exist on Kinhawk, and change this to an SP, basically an MUL zoning. This amendment also adds the restrictions of multifamily housing, boarding house, convenience retail, medical or scientific lab, automobile convenience, beer and cigarette market, car wash, and funeral home. Now, if you're familiar with MUL zoning, I don't know if there's much left. And what the neighbors realized quite quickly was, with Nolensville Road being expanded over the course of the next 3 to 5 years, pretty much everything on Nolensville Road is going to be commercial in some form or fashion. So as a consequence, the neighbors liked the idea, and the community liked the idea of being able to control exactly what goes on that piece of property from now on. So The amendment also includes a lighting and glare directional for parking lot lighting, and it also includes a line that says no improvements or other construction may occur on this site until such time that TDOT finishes and completes Nolensville Road. So what we've tried to do is put every provision known to man into this so that the neighbors control what goes on that property and what doesn't. So with that said, I ask your passing of the amendment.
Is there a second? Okay, so having been properly moved and seconded, all in favor of the amendment? Opposed? You're back on your bill as amended.
Thank you so far, Madam Vice Mayor. And with that, I move the bill as amended.
There's been a properly motion. It's been properly moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. BL 2018-1101 authorizes the Director of Public Property to enter into a sublease agreement and a consent by lessor with Strive Collegiate Academy, Inc. and Donaldson Corporate Center for temporary office space Nobody was in opposition. Yeah. Okay, we're going to try this again. BL 2018-1101 authorizes the Director of Public Property to enter a sublease agreement. Are you asking to speak on this one or on the previous one? Previous one. Okay, sorry guys. Moving back. Councilor Lady Blaylock, I apologize.
That was a disapproved bill. I think we have to do a push button vote.
It was unanimous. I'm told that it was okay because it was unanimous. You want a machine vote? We can take a machine vote.
No, that's fine. And I think it's not slides because it was, something different was sent to the planning, but.
We can do a machine vote.
Let's do a machine vote.
I need.
Madam Clerk, will you open the machine? Council Lady Henderson, did you have something you wanted to say before we went to the machine vote?
No, ma'am, it was just a point of order. I was wondering why we had not done a machine vote and/or had a presentation, but perhaps we did that on second related to the disapproved bill? Okay, thank you.
Okay, no problem. Madam Clerk, will you open the machine?
Madam Vice Mayor,
Yes.
you might want to remind everybody what we're voting on since we started in on the other one and had to go back. Thank you.
Hold that thought.
Please vote yes on 1100.
Sorry, guys. BL 2018-1100 changes 2.78 acres from R15 to SP zoning for properties located at 401 Ken Hawk Drive in Nolensville, Pike Unnumbered, to permit all uses permitted by MUL zoning except alternative financial services, bar or nightclub, flea market, hotel, motel, mobile storage units, and automobile parking.
As amended.
It's not wanting to work. Council Lady Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I think your caption did not accurately reflected Council Member Swope's introduced amendment. So we just want to make sure we are voting as amended as Council Member Swope stated. Is that correct?
Yes. Mr. Jamison, would you please read the amendment?
That is correct.
Has everybody voted? Madam Clerk, please, they haven't?
Yes, sir.
27 in favor.
BL 2018-1101 authorizes the Director of Public Property to enter into a sublease agreement and a consent by lessor with Strive Collegiate Academy and Donaldson Corporate Center for temporary office space at 3055 Lebanon Road.
Give up.
Councilman Roten.
I move approval, Madam Vice Mayor.
Having been properly approved, I'll spit this out today. Having been properly moved and seconded, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. BL 2018-1102 authorizes the conveyance of property located at 801 Old Due West Avenue, known as the Old Due West Landfill. Council Lady Van Rees.
With all committee reports in, I would like to move approval for the new parking lot at HCA Skyline Hospital and adding $650,000 to the catalog. Thank you so much.
Is there a second? Having been properly moved and seconded, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. BL 2018-1103 abandons existing sewer main and fire hydrants and to accept new combination sewer mains, combination sewer manholes, and fire hydrants for property located at 601 Commerce Street. Councilman O'Connell.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to move approval.
Is there a second? Having been properly moved and seconded, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. BL 2018-1104 abandons existing water mains, sewer mains, and easements, and to accept new water mains, sewer manholes, fire hydrants, and any associated easements for property located along Commerce Street, Broadway, and Church Street. Councilman O'Connell.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to move approval.
Having been properly moved and seconded, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. BL 2018-1105 abandons existing water line and to accept new water line and a fire hydrant for properties located at 161 and 165 Rains Avenue. Councilman Sledge.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Move approval.
Is there a second? Having been properly moved and seconded, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. BL 2018-1106 abandons existing water main and easements for property located at 2014 Bernard Circle. Council Lady Allen.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Move approval.
Having been properly moved and seconded, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. BL 2018-1107 abandons a portion of Rodney Drive right-of-way. Councilman Bedney. Why is that not Councilman Rosenberg?
I move to approve.
Having been properly moved and seconded, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Councilman Bedney. BL 2018-1108 abandons a portion of Lenox Avenue right-of-way. Council Lady Murphy.
Thank you. Do I need committee reports before my amendment? Well,
No,
I guess
you
we're all
just need to
committee.
move the amendment.
Okay, so I would like to move this amendment. This amendment is coming on now because I incorrectly thought that I could do this through legislative intent at the last meeting, and it doesn't show up on our minutes. So I have an amendment that I would ask for approval on.
Having been properly moved and seconded, all in favor? Opposed?
It's just
Motion passes. Councilmember Glover.
It's on the bill as amended.
I'm sorry, yeah. Council, hang on a minute. We need to move the bill as amended. I apologize.
Yes, I would like to move the bill as amendment now, please.
Thank you so much. Is there a second? Having been properly moved and seconded, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Councilman Glover.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to put on notice that I will be bringing Rule 36 at our next meeting. That is to retract the funding that we voted for with regards to the soccer stadium. There's been a great deal of confusion. As we all read, there was $135,000 that was spent and not done properly. I realize the emails have started flying today. I'm not going to apologize for it because I think it is our job to make sure we watch after the tax dollars and them being spent. Rules were broken. It wasn't followed properly. I'm under no pretense of where we may go with this. I'm simply giving notice that in 2 weeks, we'll have the opportunity, and I think during that time, I think we have an opportunity to tell the mayor and the entire staff that we're watching. We have to be watching because we heard yesterday we have a massive shortfall on revenues. And to waste $135,000 on something that has not yet been approved by this body, I think is appropriate for us to send the message and say, until you have the 27 votes to do what you're intending or what you're proposing to do at the fairgrounds, not one penny be spent on that move. So, Madam President, I appreciate the opportunity to put notice on Rule 36.
Councilman Sledge.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Let's do it now. Pursuant to Rule 36, I ask that we rescind RS 2017-910.
Suspension of the rules?
No, it's a proper motion. It'll take two-thirds vote. Want me to say that?
I'm going to let Mr. Jameson explain this.
A Rule 36 motion is a motion to rescind the previous affirmative action of a council. It's a proper motion. It doesn't require suspension of the rules. It does require two-thirds of the entire chamber, so that's 27 votes. And the Roberts rules, I would just add comments that with respect to Rule 36 motions, again, they are proper motions. You can do them without suspending, but you cannot undo what has been done in reliance upon passage of a resolution. So, for example, if this council voted to allow demolition of a building and then the building is demolished, you can rescind, but it's not a proper motion. So, regardless of whenever this motion is taken up, I would encourage the administration to detail what or was not done in reliance on passage of the resolution, but it is a proper motion tonight if Councilman Sledge so chooses.
I renew my motion.
Is there a second? Having been properly moved and seconded?
One question, please. All right, so help me understand, because I don't have the bill number in my head here. So are we are rescinding the funding for the soccer stadium. Is that right?
As I understand the motion, this would be on RS 2017-910, which was the motion approving the revenue bonds by the Sports Authority?
That's correct.
Well, the floor is open, so Councilman Scott Davis. Order, please. Councilman Scott Davis has the floor.
I want to ask both gentlemen who are friends of mine, both gentlemen who have valid points. We have a community discussion coming up later on this week, if I may be corrected. And also, by doing this next council meeting, it'll allow more of our brothers and sisters to be here to discuss this. So I would, you know, right now, my community is split right now. And I want to have the community discussion, but I also want to bring this up because I believe Councilman Glover has a point and Councilman Sledge has a point. And right now, and I'll admit this myself, you know, right now, that let's just take a breath and can we visit this next council meeting? Because Glover gave us warnings and is trying to give us notice and have more people here. And also, I want to have respect and have the community discussion that we promised the community also. So with both of you wonderful gentlemen, can we just go home and be with our beautiful spouses, please? We can go.
Councilman Shulman.
Thank you, Madam President. Here's just a question, because now I'm confused about something. So always, maybe we're all confused. So Councilman Glover is indicating that he was giving notice that he was going to move to rescind our action pursuant to Rule 36 at the next meeting.
Correct.
And now Councilman Sledge has moved to rescind the action tonight.
Correct.
How many times can you move to rescind actions? Can you do it twice? Could we vote on it tonight, and then Councilman Glover then brings an action in 2 weeks, and for the exact same thing?
If the motion fails, it can be repeated. But if the motion passes, the underlying action is rescinded.
Right. Okay, but here's my question. Suppose that the the motion tonight fails, okay, which would be, so let me get these straight. Right now, there's only one motion in front of us.
Correct,
And
Councilman
that's
Sledge.
Councilman Sledge. So Councilman Sledge has moved and seconded his motion to rescind. If it fails, and then Councilman Glover brings his motion to rescind in 2 weeks, we can vote on it a second time.
Yes.
Thank you for helping to clear that up. Thank you.
Council Lady Haywood.
Just for clarification, and I heard what Councilman Glover said, and I'm just wondering, because I'm just kind of befuddled right now, why the urgency on Councilman Sledge's part to rescind it tonight. I'm just wondering about the manner of the urgency.
Councilman Sledge.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and thank you, Chair, for your question. So as Councilman Davis indicated, there is a community conversation that's to take place Thursday evening. I think I put this in announcements, but I'll put it again, 6:30 to 8:30, Watson Grove Missionary Baptist Church, 1415 Horton Avenue. It is about a community benefits agreement proposal between the community and the team that is bringing the MLS package. If we have something hanging over our heads where we're going to have a giant conversation with literally hundreds of people at this meeting, and then we're going to come back in a couple of weeks and say, well, maybe that conversation didn't matter. Maybe that conversation didn't impact us. We're going to go ahead and have this conversation. We're going to have this action to rescind. Then what's the point? Why are we asking community members to come out, to spend their time, to do the things that they've been doing over the last several months, if not the last year, when they have told us that they have wanted to see this? To me, I think it's disingenuous to say that we would potentially do this, have this hang over our heads, when I truly believe that this council doesn't want that. And I think that we have an opportunity to work together. And I've told many of you that as we've had this conversation since the vote in November. I don't come from this from a point of malice. There's nothing there except for the fact that I would like for us to keep working together. And I don't see that a motion to rescind bonds that we have said we would issue if a team came, and then a team came, I don't see that as working together. So I'd rather we get past this tonight and have a conversation that's really productive about what we can do for our communities. Not what we can take away, but what we can add to our communities. And if we're not having that discussion, then what's the point? Honestly, what's the point of doing any of this? So with that, I would tell you, I'm making a motion, and we can vote on it tonight. I clearly don't want the funding for the stadium to go away. I absolutely do not want that. But I also don't want to spend the next 3 weeks having to answer to my constituents asking me whether a stadium is going to come or not, whether the potential for community benefits are going to come or not, and not be able to answer them truthfully. So that's why I've made the motion tonight.
Councilman Hastings.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I just wanted to stand. It's a little leery that I didn't invite anybody to a meeting. I didn't have a church, even though I know of the pastor and the church and all of that good stuff. I'm sorry, Councilman Sledge. I think a lot of things have been done a little bit ahead of time because we approved the bonds to build a stadium, not where the stadium was going to be. We did have conversations about possibly going to the fairground, but that was not a proven fact. That is done by this body, by the elected officials in this room. I'm kind of leery, and I know a lot of you know that there has been talk about moving the facility over in my district. Literally, I would love the idea, but God dog it, we got to get real here. We got to know that, I hate that you guys have called a lot of people out before time, just like money has been spent on things at the fairgrounds before time. We got to stop that. We can't allow this continue to roll up and down the hill. If we do that, it's our fault. And if we continue to set ourselves up to where somebody's dunking the ball in front of our face and we're not playing our parts, guys, we have to stop that. Why are we here? You know what? I'm sorry that a lot of things have been set up and a lot of things have been promised to people prematurely by other sets or other people in the administration. That time, that was not right. I apologize to the people that lies have went out to. But the vote has to be taken. Government has to be taking place in this body. It's not a proven fact that it's going to the fairgrounds. It's a proven fact that all of us, I was one of the ones that voted for it, to vote for bonds to build a stadium. And if we continue to believe and allow this premature or this prima donna theory to go on that the show is going to go down at the fairgrounds, especially with all of the crap that's been going on recently,
Please
guys.
Please contain.
All right. Sorry, Miss Vice Mayor. But if we continue to do that, guys, we gotta call the shots. We gotta do it. And I apologize to those of you again that have been prima donna'd, but right now the show is not going on and it cannot continue like this. Thank you.
Councilman Sledge. Please. Councilman Sledge.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I would ask Metro Legal about what we voted on 2017-9-10.
Mr. Cooper, the mic's open.
The council voted to conditionally authorize the Sports Authority to issue bonds for the construction of a stadium at the fairgrounds.
Thank you. Council Lady Vercher.
Thank you, Madam President. Councilman Sledge articulated his position very well. Councilman Glover did provide us notice of intent of what he was actually going to do as it relates to the motion that Councilmember Sledge made. Again, I know we've been here many hours this evening, and I think we should take the vote. I don't know what the plans are, and maybe Councilman Glover can speak to the 10 days or whatever he's going to be working on as it relates between us taking a vote tonight as opposed to us taking a vote our next council meeting. I believe we have 27 council members here, so I think there's a motion on the floor. We should take the vote. It's not like we're not aware of actually what's going on as it relates to the MLS deal, the fairgrounds, and all the other nuances as it relates to what's been reported in the media. We don't need to continue to belabor this. Even as of today, with the notice of the intent to invoke the rule, we were starting to receive emails. And again, the bulk of that, we all get those communications, but as it relates to direct constituency, that's Councilmember Sledge. So he made the motion. It's his district. I think we need to go ahead and take the vote tonight.
Thank you, Council Lady. Councilman Scott Davis.
Feel like I'm in a showdown in the OK Corral right now. But just so we're clear, all right, Mr. Jameson, Mr. Cooper, okay. Mr. Glover he announced that the next meeting he was going to call for the rule. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, Mr. Sledge, okay, wanted to have the vote tonight. Okay. Now that we're clear. Now, there is a discussion. No matter both sides hate it or love it. Some people say that the soccer stadium needs to be at the fairgrounds. Some people say the soccer stadium should be at Metro Center. Either way, on Wednesday night, Mr. Sledge, people from both sides are invited to come and have a civil discussion about it. Is that correct, sir?
Thursday night, but yes.
Thursday night, I apologize.
That's okay. I know what
Thursday night, okay. Now, Mr. Jameson, regardless, okay, if, I'm not saying yay or nay, okay? If the bonds were revoked by voting, that means we couldn't build a stadium either at Metro Center or at the fairgrounds. Is that correct?
No, it's not correct. What Rule 36 says is if action has already been taken on an underlying resolution that was approved, in this case in November, it's not a proper motion. What I don't know, and I would like to find out from the administration, is what action was taken in reliance on 910 when it was adopted.
Let's call on Mr. Cooper to give that clarification.
The team entered into an agreement with MLS, which involved a very, very large franchise fee. So if the government rescinded action, if the council rescinded action, then we would be subject to considerable liability for action taken in reliance on that vote.
Okay. Councilman Davis.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Thank you, Mr. Jameson. Once again, I feel like all Mr. Glover did was to let his colleagues and the people at home know what his intent was, trying to be transparent, and what he was planning on doing our next council meeting. And I understand Mr. Sledge, he wants to make sure that when he has the community come out to give their opinion, that we just don't kill it after all this hard work. And I understand both sides of this, but both sides are giving community voice. So I just think cooler heads need to kind of rule here and let the community have their say, because there'll be people on both sides of the issue or even on killing it. Everybody's welcome to come. And Mr. Glover is able to give notice to the rest of the people, but I don't feel comfortable having that kind of vote when we only have 27 or maybe 28 people here in the chamber right now.
Thank you, Councilman. We have multiple people in the queue, so bear with me. I want everybody to have a chance to speak before we do repeat. Council Lady Mina Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. So the resolution we voted was to approve the conditional approval to build MLS and authorize Sports Authority to issue the bond. Is that correct? And if we, as a Nashville, are successful to bring the MLS to the city, that was one of the conditions, and we were awarded the. So in a way, we are kind of bonded on that resolution. Is that correct?
As far as the team and MLS taking action in reliance on the council's vote, yes. There are a number of conditions that have to be met which have not been met, and MLS understood that when they granted the franchise. But MLS did not contemplate a rescission of the vote a few months later.
So by rescinding this resolution, we will be subject to a sizable lawsuit.
I would assume so, yes, ma'am.
Originally, I voted no because of the reason I voted no original is because when we voted, it was premature. That was my reason for not voting in that resolution. However, we are in this position. So I don't know how you feel about it. I'm still not in favor of spending taxpayers' money. However, we put ourselves in that position, and then further going, putting ourselves in the subject to potential sizable lawsuits is not the, good way to go. So either way, if you wanna vote tonight or, vote next meeting, we do need 27 votes to rescind the resolution. And also by doing so, we are making ourselves liable for sizable lawsuits. So I don't know how you feel about it. I just wanted to clarify that point.
29, 30.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Hager.
I'm going to move to table the motion, then we can bring it up next time.
There's a motion and a second to table. All in favor? Opposed? Machine vote. Councilman Shulman. The microphone's, hang on a minute. Sorry. Yeah.
I think the idea is to clarify exactly what.
Mr. Jamison.
There is a motion from Councilman Hager to table the motion to rescind offered by Councilman Sledge. So if you wish to move forward with Councilman Sledge's motion to rescind, you would vote yes on the tabling motion offered by Councilman Hager.
Hang on, guys. Let Mr. Jamison finish. Hold on.
Councilman Hager has moved to table Councilman Sledge's motion to rescind. If you table it, if you vote yes with Councilman Hager, that tables the motion to rescind and ends tonight's proceedings on that motion.
Has everybody voted?
In favor of the motion to table, 15 against, 2 abstentions.
Motion fails. We're back on the bill. Right? That's what I thought. Thank you very much. All right, Council Lady Allen.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I also rise to just go ahead and have this vote tonight and make our statement one way or another. For clarification, I think some of this discussion has arisen because of dirt that has been moved at the fairgrounds that has been confused as part of stadium construction. Can Mr. Jamison or someone, or Mr. Cooper, explain where that, what resolution or ordinance has been part of that?
Sure. So remember, there are other projects going on at the fairgrounds that have already been approved, part of the capital spending plan for fairgrounds improvements. The dirt that has been moved out there is related to those previously approved projects. No dirt has been moved regarding the stadium. The only stadium expenditures have been approximately $130,000 in pre-design work, which was necessary in order to get the building footprint in and grade evaluation and things like that. The issue that has been raised had to do with the account that came out of. And the Commonwealth Development Group had been doing work for the Sports Authority at the arena and at the stadium, Nissan Stadium. And so it came out of the account that was being paid for those other projects inadvertently. I think you saw the letter from Mr. Riebling saying that was an oversight. He should have checked. He apologized for that and is asking the Sports Authority to ratify those expenditures. But everything else involving dirt moving has nothing to do with the stadium.
Council Lady Allen, did you have anything else? Okay, thank you. Councilman John Cooper.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of questions for our legal counsel, just for clarification on a complicated subject. As I understand 910, you were characterizing it as just the vote on the soccer bonds, but 910 has more in that, including the Fair Board's approval of the no-cost 99-year lease, provided that we approve the SP, which is a condition, and then on all of the conditions for closing, this is the 27 votes to approve demolition. So how could we be liable for bonds if everyone knows that you have to have the 27 votes for the demolition?
Well, you're not liable for bonds.
Well, you were speaking about that we
I
would
was
put this
talking about
county in a liability.
the team and MLS's reliance on the resolution that the council approved, which was a conditional approval to issue the debt. The conditions have not been satisfied yet.
Yeah, well, I think that's very important, that there's not, you were imputing a liability that we were being incurring by rescinding something because everybody was depending on it, but in that approval was the contemplated 27 votes on the demolition.
That's correct.
And I remember sitting here in December encouraging us to go ahead and have that vote sooner rather than later in order to be clear about it. But I think everybody involved in this realizes that there has to be a 27 affirmative vote for demolishing any structures before this can go forward.
That's correct, but that's different than a rescission of the previous action.
Well, except that that's contained in that action. So you would have to have 27 votes to rescind, and you would also have to have 27 votes to demolish. And there were two. You can still have a vote on demolishing separate from the rescinding vote. Just to be clear. Yes. Okay. Right. And then the 10 acres is part of 910, or the 10 acres is just part of the Fair Board's agreement?
It's identified in 910. It is not part of the conditions for the issuance of debt.
Okay, so if we decline to approve the SP, then that 10 acres would go away?
What do you mean go away? I mean,
let me read your language.
Yes, it would.
Let me read your language.
That is not part of the conditions for the issuance of debt.
Right.
Correct.
That's just one of the whereases. There was an agreement on the 10 acres.
Acknowledgement of that, yeah.
Provided that the council approves the site plan as part of the SP. If the council did not approve the SP, then the 10 acres could in fact go away because that would not be part of the whereas condition of this.
Right. I think the resolution acknowledges that that was an inducement to the team to encourage them to come, but it is not part of the conditions.
But it's not part of the conditions, and so the inducement per inducement could in fact disappear, and it's not part of the conditions set forth in 910. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that affirmative.
Councilman Glover.
Thank you, Madam President. I think the major thing I'm trying to accomplish right now is what a lot of people in Nashville are trying to accomplish. We're trying to understand what exactly have we entered into. To answer Council Lady Vercher on what exactly do I hope to accomplish over the next 2 weeks, I hope to accomplish to understand what kind of legal liability we may actually have in place. I always do that. That's one of the first things I always want to look at. I want to understand it all. But there's been a lot of confusion. There has not been 27 votes on this floor to say we will build it here, we will do this, we will give 10 acres, we will do all these various things. Money has been spent, whether it's been dirt moved, whatever you want to call it, money has been spent. We have seen it. It was admitted to. Now, just because I gave notice, Mr. Jameson, am I required under the charter to follow through with that notice?
No.
Exactly. So if I come back and if I get answers and if we collectively get answers and we understand, I'm more than happy to not bring Rule 36. But I have looked at this and I've tried to understand what exactly do we have in our power to say we're serious about this. Quit doing things without our permission. Quit acting like we've given permission on something we clearly have not. We gave permission to issue bonds for a team. And so I think to answer the question, the next 2 weeks, I plan on asking a lot of questions. I plan on getting a lot of legal opinions on this. I gave notice because I would like for everyone to understand we're serious about this. I don't think anybody's trying to create, I'm not trying to create damage. I am trying to make sure we're protecting ourselves and doing that which we must do. So I'll tell you right now, you want to vote to rescind it tonight? I'll go ahead and I'll vote to rescind it. I don't know if the rest of us will or not. But at the end of the day, I'm still going to ask the questions, but I will give you my word on this. If I get questions answered, if I understand things, and I feel comfortable that I don't need to follow through with exercising Rule 36, I won't. But I wanted to make sure I explained to or had Mr. Jameson explain, just because I've given notice does not mean that I have to bring it back. I may well come back and say, I'm satisfied that we are in the right place and we're moving into the right areas on this. So with that, I'll leave it up to whatever the body wants to do. But all I did was give notice. I'm not ready to vote on it tonight. I think there's a lot of questions we have to get answered that have not been. But I'll honor whatever the body wants to do. Thank you.
Councilman Sledge.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor, and I appreciate the comments from Councilman Glover. I understand the need for clarity and transparency when there's things that are complicated that we need to figure those things out. I don't think things need to be brought in the way that they are. And so I do think that it's important that we show that we're committed to this process, all the parts of that process, the transparency of that process, but also the commitment that we've made. I will tell you this, and I don't know if the councilman can make this commitment. If the councilman commits that he will not call for Rule 36 at our next meeting, I'm willing to withdraw this motion. But I didn't hear a commitment.
Councilman Glover.
Okay, let me see if I can say this a little more clearly. Over the next 2 weeks, I plan on asking a lot of questions. If I understand what the legal ramifications are, if the city, in fact, would be damaged by this, I absolutely will give you my word. I will not bring Rule 36. However, and I want to put the however in here, if I'm not convinced and I can come back and explain to this body why it makes sense to go forward with it, I will. I'm hopeful that over the next 2 weeks, I'll get answers from legal and I'll understand what's happening. Because just like you, I've got people in my district that are saying, don't spend my money, why are you doing this? All right, and so while it's in your district, this is something everybody in this room, our constituents, use that particular piece of property. So that being said, I'm more than happy to give you my word right here and tell you I will absolutely not bring it forward if we get questions answered, and I'm convinced that we're going to follow the process the way we're supposed to going forward. I hope that answers the question.
Councilman Sledge.
I renew my motion.
We still have members in the queue. Councilman Hager.
I accidentally hit my button, I guess, so I'm not. I've already said what I had to say.
Okay. We're going to go with some people that haven't spoken yet. Council Lady Murphy.
Thank you. Forgetting how many titles we've called you tonight. I wanted to address a few things. Some of the council members tonight who are basically calling councilmen from District 17 out of line for calling for this motion tonight because we're not all here. Tonight I was late because I was stuck at work. Do we know that all 39 of us are going to be here next meeting? No, we all have things that come up. When motions are made, when votes come up, it's who's here and who can be here. We can't always guarantee and make sure that our votes are lined up every time and whether your votes are here or not here. That's just part of the game. Just like when you play Monopoly, you read the rules and you know how the system works. This motion was made tonight because Councilman Colby Sledge feels strongly about this project and in his district. We have taken a vote on these bonds already. We have picked a horse. We need to ride it and see where we're going. There's plenty of time to get the questions answered that Councilman Glover wants to ask, and I think he's right to ask them. But holding this motion over our head to get those answers, I don't think that that is necessarily how we need to go about doing this. And quite honestly, I don't think it's fair to Councilman Sledge, to this body, and I'm not going to call it disrespectful, but I think that it's borderline of trying to hold us hostage on something. When Councilman Sledge and the rest of us in the administration are trying to move forward on a lot of different issues across the city. Also, it concerns me that there's potential for a lawsuit if we rescind these. I mean, that's a serious deal. I don't think that we need to be throwing around frivolous decisions on emotions when we can potentially be stuck in another lawsuit like we've been in other legislation already. So tonight, I think you can tell pretty strongly, I'm standing with Councilman Sledge on this one, that he may have made the motion, we can vote it down. If Councilman Glover wants to bring it back up later, but holding this motion over our head to get answers is not going to help you get answers. That makes it almost a hostile situation that we don't need to be in. Right now, as a council, we need to be working together with the administration and all of us moving forward. Thank you.
Councilman Dave Rosenberg.
Thank you, Madam President. Previous question, please.
There's been a call for the previous question. Is there a second? All in favor? Opposed? Passes.
You know, on the motion to rescind,
I know. Machine vote?
probably.
Yeah, okay, so we're going to take a machine vote. We are on the motion to rescind. Do we need further clarification from Mr. Jameson? Mr. Jameson, would you please clarify what they are voting on?
Councilman Sledge has moved to rescind RS 2017-910. I think it's fair to say that he would expect he asked that you vote no on that motion. If you are supportive of Councilman Glover's position, you would vote yes on the motion to rescind.
Madam Clerk, please open the machines. Yeah, Marlene, I'm voting. Hang on. Councilman Elrod. Mr. Shulman, were you seeking recognition on the bill, or do you need to talk now? All right. Councilman Bedney, did you have anything you wanted to add? Okay. All right. Madam Clerk, would you please tally the vote?
8 in favor of the motion to rescind, 16 against, and 7 abstentions.
Motion fails. Okay, before you get up to leave, we have 2 more pieces of important business that I'd like to take care of. We want to acknowledge the loss of our prior council member, Edward Whitmore, who we lost last week. Funeral was yesterday, and so I wanted to make sure that everybody had that information, and we take just a moment to remember him. Lastly, the mayor and I had an opportunity to attend the Metro Management Institute series graduation, and our own Rosie Hayes graduated, so we need to give her a big round of applause. If there's no other business, is there a motion to adjourn? Or not? Is there a motion to adjourn?
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.org.